All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation from the chat. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 533. Or sorry, 533. Black Pandemic Chat. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust and those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description, you get the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. All right. Let me make one more adjustment and then we'll get started. All right, so first item on the docket is from fastcompany.com. Mark Cuban wanted to see if Texas stores were reopening safely. The results were horrifying. Expand this out. On May 1st, Texas businesses started to reopen under restricted guidelines. They are among the first in the nation to do so. And if the results of an investigation by Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban are any indication, things aren't looking good. Cuban hired secret shoppers to evaluate the rate at which Dallas businesses were reopening and whether they were following safety protocols. The results are stark. Only 36% of businesses reopened that first weekend, and 96% of open stores weren't compliant with protocols. On May 1st through the 3rd, hiring platform ShiftSmart called about 1,000 popular restaurants and retailers to determine how many had fully reopened for dine-in and in-store shopping. From there, the company physically audited about 300 businesses. They evaluated mandatory protocols such as single-use condiments, marked waiting spots, and sanitized carts, as well as suggested protocols like contactless payments, at-risk group hours, and disinfectant surfaces. They found that businesses followed only about 60% of mandatory protocols and 54% of the suggested protocols. For instance, one secret shopper noted that the manager approached the table to ask how our meal was, not wearing a mask or gloves. Masks fall in the suggested category, so while that's technically still compliant according to Texas rules, it goes against the CDC's recommendations. While Fast Company reported that some retail startups such as Warby Parker are redesigning their spaces to promote social distancing, ShiftSmart's secret shoppers found that compliance tends to vary by industry when you look in the aggregate. ShiftSmart CEO Akash Kumar wouldn't disclose specific businesses, but he said restaurants generally performed slightly better than retailers, which he attributed to their background in food safety and single location local brands were the most compliant. Those are the same restaurants that have a lot of local ties to the community and have built the brand over time, says Kumar. You can see they are going out of their way to take safety seriously for both their employees and patrons. Cuban wrote that he launched the investigation to get a better sense of what reopening looks like and to see what precautions businesses are taking to make it safe for their employees and patrons like him and his family. We will do this again in a couple more times so we can learn what the trends are and try to learn from it, Cuban said in his post. It's clear that COVID-19 is upending retail design. But based on this data, it appears that most businesses have yet to meet even the most basic protocols. Yeah, this is a stupid idea, okay? It's a pretty stupid idea. And it's only gonna take one incident for this to even happen again, in terms of more infections to be spread, because like the article is saying, most of these people or most of these businesses did not have proper compliance. But why? I don't know. I mean, you can be sued at this point, especially if they do contact tracing and they find out that this business did not meet the proper CDC guidelines compliance. You open yourself up to major risk. I don't even understand the point to that. Just to what? Get a few dollars? It doesn't make any sense to me. It does not make any sense to me at all. I think this is a disaster. Restaurants are one thing, but retail is a different one. Who's really spending money at, Macy's or something like that? Like, where's the logic in this? Okay, where is the logic in that? All right, this is from City Lab, collecting the maps of coronavirus pandemic. Experience out. The 5.5 million plus maps at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. are so many windows into history, with items from the 13th century to the modern era. The world's largest repository of geospatial data is always growing, with its keepers on constant lookout for new additions. Lately, those librarians have had their hands full. John Hessler, a specialist in modern cartography and GIS at the Library of Congress, is collecting the maps of the coronavirus pandemic and a public health crisis, where the interpretation of data, maps, and other visualizations have been critical. Hessler's job is to ensure that future historians and lawmakers can access that data and see how map making itself advance as they try and grasp this moment in time. I spoke to Hessler over the phone. Our conversation has been condensed and edited. So, being a map librarian must come with its challenges, even under normal conditions. Considering the volume of digital maps out there these days, what's it like? The field has just exploded. It used to be that mapping was the exclusive subject area of governments and private companies that publish maps, which means that the maps we collected were limited, but generally more accurate. Now a lot of amazing cartography is coming from people sitting in their offices, cafes, and at home, visualizing geospatial data in ways that early cartographers couldn't have imagined. Sometimes maps come out that just blow you away, like this wind map. It was just the perfect symbol of what cartography has become now, using geospatial data to visualize the world in a dynamic way. So this is a picture or image of that map. That's the other thing that has changed. We used to collect maps or 3D models that were static, easy to reach out and grab. But now we often gather data as opposed to the map itself, as map makers look at more dynamic phenomena, whether it's storms or COVID-19 or the processes of urban change. Those maps make people like me so excited about where we are and where we're going, but also it's harder for us to keep track of who is doing what and how to preserve it. How do you preserve the dynamic maps coming out of the pandemic while it's still unfolding? I'm thinking about the maps changing hour by hour from Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, which are a go-to for many people right now. It's not easy. It kind of comes down to what's available and what you can grab. Right now, I am making lists, reaching out to people who are involved in the pandemic mapping as we speak and capturing things that are of great interest, like some of the phylogenetic mapping, phylogenetic mapping of the disease that's going on. That is really new and fascinating, but it still fits the tradition of disease and epidemic mapping that started in the 19th century. For example, a project called NextStrain is geospatializing the mutations in the COVID-19 genome as nucleotides are passed from human to human. That is a brand new approach that has exploded in this pandemic, and it is just a beautiful way to visualize this thing. You can see how New York City strains really come from Europe, while the ones in Washington State are largely from China. Interesting. This is pretty dope. We're also looking at cell phone tracking apps and how transmission analysis is being done with those. And if the data will be useful sometimes we'll just collect snapshots of what we are doing now, which would be nice for people in the future to know what's happening. Some of it also reflects the cultural experience of the pandemic, like some of the social media mapping that's going on. People are using machine learning to map where certain misinformation is coming from based on tweets, as well as the sentiments about lockdowns. We've come so far in deep learning tools, and the maps coming out of this disaster really show that. One of the defining features of this pandemic is the tremendous uncertainty about the future and the lack of clear data to tell us for sure where things are headed. How have you seen that reflected in maps? Have maps misguided us at times? How have they played into the emotional experience? What you're asking really goes to the power of maps. What a map does is take a complex situation, abstracts it from the reality on the ground, and presents a simple image to help people try and understand what's happening. And like any produced tool, maps have particular ways of placing ideologies, conscious or subconscious. That can include what color they choose. For example, those Johns Hopkins maps use gigantic red dots on a black background, which from a design perspective just explodes off of the page. There are also a couple of mapping places that have been giving grades on how well places are doing social distancing. So if you see a country with an explosion of color and a D-, that might freak people out, because you're only looking at this image that's aggregated, and the people who made it decided on what's good and bad without much context in what came before. Have members of Congress been requesting maps or assistance from you recently? There have been requests, but I can't say what because there is confidentiality about anything that's being borrowed. A library doesn't say what particular people have pulled. The Congressional Research Service has its own GIS and mapping group, and they've been very busy with this sort of work. I'm just amazed at the sheer volume of geospatial images. It's really an historic mapping moment like no other. I remember, yeah, this is true. This is true. I mean, this is just a snapshot of, I guess, the last time that they did the mapping. But you see a lot of infections that are coming into the United States are coming from the West, on the West Coast are coming from Asia. And a lot that's happening in, let's say, on the East Coast is definitely coming from Europe, okay? It's very interesting, though. You can see the little maps if you really trace it. All right. Jump to the next item on the docket. All right, this is from fastcompany.com. Wearing masks may have a surprising unintended consequence. The science is certain at this point. Wearing a mask can help reduce the likelihood of being infected with COVID-19, but masks alone are far from perfect. Over the past 2 weeks, as masks have gone from optional to mandatory in many states, I've noticed a shift in behavior. I've seen people wearing masks at small get-togethers and people wearing masks in stores, all without observing the 6 feet of social distancing recommended by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. At least they were wearing masks at all. Still, I wondered, could masks be creating unintended consequences? Could a mask provide such a strong sense of security that people have become lax in protecting themselves in all the other ways that are recommended? It's a good question, and it's a sensible hypothesis, says Edward J. Russo, a professor of management and organizations and of marketing at the Johnson Graduate School of Management and a member of the field of cognitive studies at Cornell University. Russo, along with two other experts in psychology and public health I spoke to for this piece, agreed we should absolutely wear masks, but we should also be cognizant of the effect they might be having on our behavior. Before Joyce Erlinger was an assistant professor at Washington State University, and before she took her current position, research and behavioral insights at the investment company Robinhood, she wrote her dissertation at Cornell on a fascinating topic, unintended consequences. In the world of design, unintended consequences are fairly common. Something is built with the best of intentions, but it causes surprise problems. Erlinger points to crosswalks, trampoline guards, and pool floaties as all being seemingly beneficial developments that come with unintended consequences. There are times when safety measures can do more harm than good, she says. Generally speaking, experts agree that crosswalks do provide pedestrians with more safety crossing a street than no crosswalk at all. But not all crosswalks are created equal. Research has found that drivers slow down less when approaching crosswalks with two lines versus more overt crosswalks with signs and zebra stripes. In turn, it's possible that crosswalks may make pedestrians feel more secure than they really are when crossing the street. The American Board of Pediatrics, meanwhile, has waged a multi-decade war against trampolines because they cause so many injuries for kids. In 1997, the trampoline industry began offering nets and other safety add-ons that could supposedly protect from various injuries. But a 2012 study published in Pediatrics concluded that there does not appear to be an inverse correlation between presence of safety equipment and rates of injury. Before adding that, the very presence of the safety features may provide a false sense of security. And while Erlanger could not find any particular studies on pool floaties, the United States Life-Saving Association, Lifeguards Without Borders, and the CDC concur that children who lack swimming skills shouldn't be using the items in the pool. Why? They create a false sense of security for the swimmer and the guardian, when in fact, it's easy for a floaty to pop off or fall, or for a child to end up trapped under a raft. Even bike helmets create unintended consequences for riders. A 2007 study found that cars drive 3.3 inches closer to cyclists who wear a helmet than to those who don't. Ironically, that would suggest the same cyclists donning protective gear are more likely to need it. When I proposed the idea that masks might be reducing our drive to social distance to Dr. Roger Chow, he agrees it's possible. I think that's a potential unintended consequence, says Chow, who was the lead researcher on a landmark WHO study on masks. It's like with football, helmets and concussions. You think they would protect people, but there is some data that people are more reckless when they think they are protected. This is maybe something similar. Indeed, football helmets have eliminated skull fractures in the NFL, but they've led to harder, faster paced game over time and haven't protected players from brain damage. Over time, wearing a mask in public will only make us more comfortable with the practice of going outside. I think every time I leave the house, go shopping, and don't come back and instantly start coughing and die, I feel a little more confident, braver, and I am probably less careful, says Erling. Russo points to McKinsey's research that pegged the two most common behavioral flaws of CEOs. The first is overconfidence, and the second is confirmation bias, or our natural tendency to look for proof of our own assumptions. In this case, Russo believes that wearing a mask is ripe for confirmation bias. People believe what they want to believe. They want to go back to normal. And if I believe wearing a mask lets me go back to normal, I can go out, talk to people, get my bike fixed, go shopping, and get on public transportation, says Russo. And every time someone doesn't get ill as a result, which is a lot, given that COVID-19 has a lengthy incubation time in which a carrier is asymptomatic, it further confirms the safety of their own behavior. There's a second part I think is more important psychologically. He continues, we only know what we want to know. And that is another form of confirmation bias. Russo believes that many people have written off the dangers of COVID-19 in the same ways they've been able to write off climate change. There are a lot of people who don't want to believe something, who won't believe it until they see it and feel its impact on themselves, says Russo. Of course, there are political overtones here. Fox News denied the dangers of COVID-19 for months as a liberal conspiracy. But Russo also sees this tendency as human nature, and he points to how many people readily build houses in known floodplains, despite the risk. This is a very good point. People who haven't been personally affected by the coronavirus or don't know someone who has had the disease might feel that it's abstract and not relevant to their daily behaviors. They won't believe it until it hits them, says Russo. And that's dangerous for things like the virus and global warming. It's more personally dangerous for floods and fires. Is there any solution? So assuming that wearing a mask really does make us overconfident and cause us to drop our guard with social distancing over time, is there any solution? I don't think it has a simple answer. For any problem you want to solve, you have to know the cause, says Russo. I don't know, I don't want to make it more complex than it is, but different people choose to treat masks more casually or the virus more casually for different reasons. Some don't want to change. Some want the economy to support a political persuasion. Some have a machismo. Some people might be 22 and it's their senior year of college and they are going to go to spring break no matter what. Each of these types of people would require a different type of intervention, says Russo. Is it possible to educate everyone in the world to challenge their own biases and break their bad habits? Of course, I'm sorry, of course it's not. But much like wearing a mask in the first place, every bit of effort helps in thwarting the spread of the COVID-19. So we might as well try. See, I like where this article is going because it does point out a very flawed thinking in the whole entire pandemic. Okay. One, there are people going out there with masks and we don't know where those masks came from. Okay. Number two, we don't know the level of filtering that the mask has. We read an article before where it said that a mask with a nozzle on it that allows air to egress from the mask actually proves to be more harmful than masks that don't have it. And so I'm seeing people with a variety of masks. I saw a guy with a painter's mask and spray paint mask and gas masks and all types of variation of masks, but some masks may not be appropriate for COVID. I know they say just covering your face is actually more important than, let's say, not having one. But what happens when you have a mask that already has the bacteria on it? Does the bacteria sit on it? Does it exacerbate out in the crowded environment with the mask on because the mask has accumulated all types of bacteria on it? There's a variety of questions that I have that don't seem to get answered in regards to all of this mask stuff. Okay. There's a lot of questions I have, and I don't think that the government is going to have it, or even these, the people in this article, I don't think they're going to have it either. My understanding, we covered the article about this about a month or so ago. A mask is only good for 72 hours, at least the N95s. Okay. And we saw in the White House where you had the chief nurse officer or whatever she's supposed to be in the White House saying that she's been using her mask, more often than she should have. Okay, so she needs new PPE, but she's not receiving new PPE, and she's saying that there's a shortage. And the president says, "No, well, I'm hearing different." Okay, if she's reusing this mask and the mask breaks down over time, let's say 5 days or something like that, and we're a month and a half in of using the same mask, I mean, what's the value of the mask at that point if the mask is going to break down? Are we really protecting anything at that point? It's just a lot of questions that I have. I don't know. I don't see any answers for them at this point. I'm not as technical in these areas. We got Tafari on the panel. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? Yeah, this is definitely something worth looking into. So I appreciate you covering this topic. As far as PPE, it's really hard to find PPE that's produced in the States. I've seen a lot of concerns about people wanting, uh, just not even wanting to order PPE from China and being concerned as though, it could be coming in contact with COVID, of course, in the containers and everything go across the way. So it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, we just got to keep sanitizing.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely.
Where are you getting your mask?
So I ordered my mask a while back, back in February, but I have N95 mask.
Are you reusing it?
No, I bought a bulk of them.
Okay.
I bought a bulk of them, so I have probably about. I just received a new batch. I have probably about 100 masks. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, I should be good until summer. After that, if we run into any more production issues, man, I just take a condom in and just pull it over my head, call it a day. Latex. All right. This is from Bloomberg.com. Virus-stricken children threaten world's ability to reopen. Children with COVID-19 threaten recovery from the pandemic, sparking increasing scrutiny of their cases from scientists and policymakers seeking clues about the new coronavirus spread and virulence. While infections of those under 18 compose a small portion of the worldwide total, they number in the thousands and in recent days have become the subject of a National Institutes of Health study. There have also been reports in the US, UK, and Europe of a mysterious condition among children. In Italy, one model being used to guide recovery decisions has underscored the danger presented by children who often show no symptoms and have many more daily social contacts than adults. It predicts that opening schools alone would blow out the reproduction factor, known as R0 or R naught, and pronounced R naught, to around 1.3, above its current level below 1, which is needed to curb the outbreak. Opening the schools is a solution that's absolutely worrying, said Stefano Merler, a researcher at the Trento base for design, Bruno Kessler, who built the models that Italy's Superior Institute of Health. It would bring very serious problems in a very short time, he said in April 30th briefing. By contrast, opening only businesses would keep the level below 1, according to the model. An R naught rate of 1 means that for every person infected, another contracts the virus. A rate less than 1 implies that the pandemic is shrinking. But more than just being vectors of infection, children around the globe have been sickened by, and in some cases, died from COVID-19. While their numbers pale compared with the tens of thousands of dead elderly people, there are now enough children with COVID-19 that hospitals have dedicated spaces for them, including in Milan, near Rome, and in New York State, where 3 children aged 9 and under have died, and 8 of them aged 10 through 19. Italy has counted 1,478 children aged 9 and younger as infected. According to the government data through April 28th, 3 had died as of May 6th, including at least 1 boy and 1 girl, according to the figures released today. Rome's Bambino Gesù Pediatric Hospital which has set up an isolated COVID-19 ward at a satellite facility outside of the city center, last week had 2 children in intensive care of a total of 16 coronavirus patients. They included 4 mothers, according to Corriere della Sera newspaper. As governments around the globe weigh reopening economies along with their schools, the new research points to a risk that virus transmission via children would worsen the pandemic. One such study from Germany found that children with the new coronavirus may be as infectious as adults and recommended caution against unlimited school openings. The New England Journal of Medicine on May 1st published a study of Italian children with COVID-19 that showed more than half contracted the disease outside their families or from unknown sources, and hypothesized that this was the result of Italy's not locking down sooner. Other researchers have questioned how much children can spread the virus. A recent analysis of global studies compiled by the Don't Forget the Bubbles pediatric blog found limited evidence that children pass the disease to others in significant numbers. The National Institutes of Health said Monday that US researchers will track children from 2,000 families to learn how the virus is transmitted and determine what percentage of those infected show symptoms. In the UK, Spain, Italy, and US, health authorities and doctors are warning of a growing number of children with a multi-system inflammatory state that could be linked to the coronavirus. At a news conference Friday, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said it's new cause of concern, with 73 cases of severe illness in children, challenging previously held assumptions that they were largely immune. A 5-year-old died in New York City from COVID-related complications, and the state is investigating other deaths, Cuomo said. This would be really painful news and would open up entirely different chapter, he said. Among children with COVID-19, the youngest have borne a disproportionate burden. In Italy, those 1-year-old and under compose 37% of the 134 coronavirus hospitalizations of children through April 28th. Among the reported 49 babies hospitalized in Italy was a 2-month-old from a small town from south of Milan. Her ordeal began March 15th, a Sunday, when she ran a high temperature and was vomiting, according to her mother, Francesca, 37, who asked that her surname not be published to protect medical privacy. Francesca drove the 2 of them to a Milan hospital that specializes in infants, not knowing it would be the last time they would see the baby's father and 2 older siblings for 3 weeks. She had with her only a few diapers, a phone charger, and her purse. At worst, she suspected bronchitis and says she had no idea babies could contract COVID-19. Doctors, however, had a hunch and isolated the 2, testing mother and daughter. The next morning, Francesca learned from a phone call to the room that they each had the novel coronavirus. The local hospital transferred Francesca and her daughter to the pediatric ward of Milan's Sacco Hospital, which has more than 15 beds, 5 of which are for effective isolation, and 1 isolation room for babies. In a room of their own, the duo were each other's only company as they fought the virus. Their conditions never turned serious enough to require invasive procedures or machines to assist breathing, but their isolation and doctors and nurses who entered only in full protective gear meant they didn't see another human for the human face for the entire time. Even after they recovered from the COVID-19 symptoms, Francesca and her daughter had to wait days until they both tested negative before they could go home. The day we got out and I finally saw the face of the ward's doctor, I started crying. Back at home, however, there are still lingering questions about her two other children's health, and by extension, the rest of Italy's. As the country heads toward a slow reopening, despite her hospitalization, the other members of her family, having never shown symptoms, have been unable to get a coronavirus test. Yeah, big problem. Anybody who decides to open up a K through 12 right at this point, you should be fired from your position. You should definitely be fired from your position. What value does it serve to open up school at this point? What purpose does it serve? If anything, they should spend the money on trying to do tele education through smart TVs and so on and so forth. They should be thinking about these things. Sending a bunch of kids into school at this point, that's suicide. I mean, who's going to teach them? I mean, if the adults have to have, everybody has to practice social distancing, how are you going to structure your schools out to accommodate those guidelines? I mean, does not, no one is thinking about this long term. Everything's about the short term, about reopening things and trying to put up a fight and show how, brave they are. We can stand up to this invisible, this invisible war. You're an idiot. Tafari, you got anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said, but I also considered the fact that maybe some parents are actually supportive because they feel, they need someone to watch the kids while they can go back to work, but that really is still a problem considering that staff has to be at the schools. So it's a cycle, like you said, that needs to think about the long term. There's no way that we won't be right back in the same position if we just, fully, go back to normal. It's going to have to redefine what normal looks like.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I just think that the benefit of sending kids to school rather than reinvent taking the school budget and creating remote learning, remote teaching, it just seems suicide at this point. Because as soon as an outbreak happens again in a school, whoever's the president, whoever's the governor, whoever's the mayor, whatever party you're affiliated with, it's finished. No one would ever forgive you for opening up the schools and sending these kids back to school. If I was a parent, I'm not sending my kid to school anywhere.
Everybody doesn't have that choice, though.
Really?
Yeah, I think some people are in a position where they would send their kids in because they would just more so need someone to, it's kind of like childcare services, are expensive. So I think that some people would risk it if they don't have a vulnerable adult in the house and they think it's important for them to be able to go make money. I think they would send their kid to school.
Mm-hmm. And we got complex design on the piano as well. All right.
Oh, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, put some volume on your mic.
Okay, how do I sound now? Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, what's going on, y'all?
All right, man. Chilling, man.
I'm sorry, was somebody saying something?
No, we got Tafari on the panel with us.
Oh, okay. Hey, peace, brother. I talked to my daughter's teacher yesterday, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I went and picked up all her stuff from school because basically I think like next Friday would be like they'd be out of school for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
They get out usually like third week of May here. So I went and picked up all her belongings, got her spring pictures, her little final work packet and all that. And I'm just asking him, I'm like, hey, so, what's the plan for next year? And he's all, well, from what they say, school will start on the day that they scheduled it for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that we're going to be going to school as of that day. It just means that school is scheduled to start. So I don't know. I kind of read between the lines there a little bit. And, maybe based on kind of what transpires over the summer here, It may be a distance learning type of thing, where school is going to start on that day, but they had already handed out like laptops to all the 3rd through 8th graders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could see a possibility here where if this doesn't really change much, like they'll stick to the start day, but it'll be distance learning.
Yeah. You're gonna see academic industrial complex start to prop up, from all of this, because people who don't want to send their kids to school and who want to teach it from home, they'll have to buy into a program like Netflix, like with a Netflix sort of subscription,
Yep.
and just pay it that way. I mean, there's a whole lot of IoT that's going to come out of this. I remember back in the days when we were younger, we used to play the old NES, and used to have Burger Time. They used to have Rob the robot lift up the little burgers and stuff like that.
The gyroscope and
Yeah,
shit. Yeah.
yeah. Things are gonna come back, man. It's gonna be like the old days.
It is, man. It really is, dude. And there was some article, man, I was reading, or maybe it was a video that I was watching. And they were talking about sort of like the lifestyle changes, right? People kind of changing their lifestyles as a result of all this, and kind of like, and these things being like permanent changes, right? So, people have already kind of gotten used to like doing work from home shit. They're like, you know what, I'd rather do this. So there may not be much of a clamor for people to want to go back to doing things the traditional way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that is going to spread across several different areas of life. People getting used to working out from home. People getting used to cooking at home who haven't done it, forever.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I had a friend. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she's trying to maybe revisit like a sort of food-based business model that she had, because now, she thought the idea was kind of crazy maybe a year or two ago when her and her friend was coming up with it, but now it's like, dude, it makes all the sense in the world now. Oh, did I drop out?
No, you're still there. We can hear you.
Oh, no, because my screen, it went black. Zoom did something, dude. I thought it crashed on me. I thought it dropped off in the middle of me saying something. Oh.
So right now, visually, the only thing we can see is a Zoom screen, not the any articles or images.
Yeah, okay. And Mike, you there? Okay, Mike might have stepped away for a sec. Wait, and Wesley's there. Let me see if I can let. Okay, wait, Wesley's in the back. Mike might have stepped away for a second. So, all right, when he gets back, we'll let Wesley in. But yeah, I know. I was just clocking out of work here. So what was the article stating? Yo, Mike.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Mike, if you're there.
I had to mute myself. The UPS came by, so I had to go.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, I'm just coming back, so I'm going to jump to this next article. This is from futurism.com. MIT invents $6 COVID-19 testing using CRISPR. A new coronavirus test uses gene hacking tech to determine whether someone is sick with COVID-19, and it only costs $6 to make. How much are you going to sell it for? Because there are still too few tests to go around. A pair of MIT researchers set out to build something to be as low cost and self-contained as possible, the New York Times reports. The result is a two-step test that uses CRISPR to scan patients' saliva or nasal swab for signs of coronavirus genetic code. We're excited that this could be a solution that people won't have to rely on a sophisticated and expensive laboratory to run, said Feng Zheng, a researcher at MIT and the Broad Institute who developed the test, told the New York Times. The test website makes it very clear that it's not approved for clinical use yet. As the MIT reports, the test performed well in early experiments, but their scope was limited. The researchers only administered it to 12 sick patients in a control group of 5 healthy people. Here's how it works. The patient's nasal swab or saliva is deposited into a tube with chemicals that rip open viruses. The concoction is then dropped into a second tube full of CRISPR molecules that search for the coronavirus. In order to work, that second tube needs to stay at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for a full hour. The test gives results similar to those of an at-home pregnancy test. The MIT reports a strip of paper is dipped in and if 2 lines appear, the test was positive. The researchers behind the test told the MIT that they are talking to manufacturers to mass produce a 1 vial version, which they hope can help solve the testing crisis in the US. So I guess this is actually a good thing.
I mean, yeah, you should be able to find these at the Dollar General joints.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know how they like the pregnancy test at like the just, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, $6.
Mm-hmm. And it should be covered under Medicare.
Yeah.
Medicaid. We got Wesley on the panel. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. How's your week going, bro?
Chilling, man. Chilling.
Chilling, same.
All right. Anything you want to add to this? What you've heard so far?
Nah, I don't have much to say on that.
Okay. Yeah. So they treat it like an EPT test, man. Pink for pregnant. I guess blue if not, or something like that. The 2 lines.
Nah, it's like, yeah, it's because pink would be like, I have no idea, bro.
Yeah, I don't even.
I've never had to deal with that kind of shit, but
it's all yellow. So. No, man. This opens up the market for an IoT solution. I mean, how do you get the results back quicker and more authentic? Right? Anybody can say something. It tested negative. How do we know that?
Check it out. So each test, right? I don't know. So each test has a unique QR identifier, QR code, right? So that QR is the code itself is an entry in a database. When that individual unit is purchased, the test is administered. Okay, there's going to be like a QR verification where the phone scans the QR and then sends the data results, right? It catalogs the test for that individual and that individual test. So I would say that like you'd have to have some sort of phone-based thing that identifies who the test user was, right? Mm-hmm. And this is just rudimentary, just off my head, because this call when you say IoT, man, it's no different than the scooter shit. It kind of functions the same way, right? It's just application. So I'm just coming up with an idea on what you're talking about. Like the test could have an individual QR, and when that QR is scanned, there's a form. You have to fill it out, put the test results in there, and then upload it.
Well, it also has to go through 140 degrees of temperature, right? So that's what the article is saying. I don't know where they do the testing in.
Well, no, man, I was kind of thinking of it like the fucking like the EPT, the damn EPT test. You just get a box from Walgreens or something. There's but no, there's that other part too. But that would be how I could see it happening, like using IoT though.
Yeah.
$6.
I mean, it's probably be around $30. They got to make some money out of it, but
Oh yeah, somebody has to pay for it.
that's pretty cheap.
Yeah, and that's how it has to
But the
be.
thing is, like, here's my question about this whole: is like, what's the whole point of doing these testing if you know that the virus is gonna just pop up again?
Well, because you need to create a barometer of who's been tested and who has not,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now you can, if you're creating a database and you're saying this population here has been tested versus this population has not, and we know that this test is saying this particular demographic is not positive, they're negative. This other demographic is unknown. We now
Demographic.
focus on the unknowns rather than the knowns, right? So
Wait, by demographic, do you mean like niggas versus like Hispanics, Latinos?
people who have not been tested,
Okay.
just people who have not been tested. There's just a lot of people walking around untested because there's not enough tests, right? So you have to start from somewhere, and I think this is going to lead to more further examination and more intricate detail. Because if I'm a private business owner, if I'm not Lord and Taylor, if I'm Macy's or something like that, some major outlet, I may not want, from a movie theater like AMC, I may not want you in my theater if
Mm-hmm.
potentially you can pass, if we just don't have any idea who you are. Okay, I was talking about this yesterday with Nagone 11 and on the panel, and the idea for me is that no one should be able to leave the house at this point, at least going back 35 days. If had I been at the forefront of public health from an IT standpoint, no one should be able to leave the house without actually booking a pass, from your local state government. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to Whole Foods. Okay, where's that Whole Foods? See, the contact tracing should have begun back in January, February. It should have started back then. They shouldn't be doing it now. It's too late to do it now, right? No one should be leaving the house without actually determining what their next destination is and whether or not they've been tested. And if private business owners like Whole Foods and so on and so forth have people out there waiting in line, you're not getting into my store until I see a state ID. That's the first thing I want to see before you come into my store, because I want to verify who's coming into my store, whether they've been tested or not, especially if they have not been tested. See, the contact tracing has to go all the way around. It can't just be people just walking around freely and untested. If they're not going to be tested, I really don't want you in my store. Sorry.
That kind of that's just automatically going to present a lot of problems for
civil liberties as well.
Yeah, and people who don't have IDs, and it's going to be.
And why don't they have an ID?
Well, the same reason they don't have it when they go to the voting polls. They claim it's about their income, poverty. It's a lot of. I just think that we're having to. Yeah, I mean, it's the way America is right now. I do think that we need to prioritize public safety and health, but you're always going to have those people like with the backlash, kind of similar to the way it was in Philly with the mask on the bus when they dragged the guy off. Like,
or when those guys showed up in Michigan at the State House and with their AR-15s,
guns.
Yeah, absolutely, that too.
Unreal, man.
There's word that something might be happening out here in California on Friday.
Or such as lifting the ban?
Yeah.
No, really?
That's what I heard. I was talking to one of my partners yesterday, and so he's actually opened back up. He was in his shop, and he was able to open up. Now they let him open up his shop. They're not letting people do, like just going to the beaches en masse, right? But there's supposedly like Friday, they're gonna lift that.
Yeah, they're talking about the 18th here. So they're doing it in 4 phases, 4-phase rollout. Right. I think the first month, next week is supposed to be phase 1, and then June is supposed to be phase 2, and then so on and so forth. I don't know. I heard some cases this morning of some places that did open up had some someone who was coughing and stuff like, and they had to shut down again. So I don't know, man. I don't know how they go about doing this without testing people. I don't know. I would rather to wait for tests, and I would rather have a structured way of monitoring people's movement, because you don't know where anybody's moving.
Yeah, I think the airlines could do a better job of that too, especially considering that there are people who are coming from places that have higher cases that are traveling to Georgia just because they're opened up.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen several examples of that.
Yeah,
just for leisure, they just want to go somewhere where they can go to open businesses, and they very well could be asymptomatic.
Yeah, we got to leverage all the technology that we have at our hands, drones and everything. There's no reason for people to be walking around going nowhere. Where the hell are you going? If you're not going to an essential place, where are you going? Well, I just want to get out the house. And you're part of the problem. There's no reason why you should be going to a liquor store.
Hey, I just went to the liquor store right now, man. So.
and I was planning to go in a few minutes.
Hey, chill on that, bro.
I guess we should add that to the essential list.
Yeah. Mike just guilted me out of it. Thanks.
Yeah, man. You got people waiting outside of a liquor store, man, waiting to go get what exactly? I have no idea, man.
Well, technically, I was going to go to a gas station, but I was going to go in there to get a beer.
So in my state, the rationale is that if you don't give like people who have who are prone to alcoholism, like they're fixed, they actually could die because of what alcohol addiction is. So they kind of need the alcohol in a way.
Just blame it on COVID.
That's cold.
Yeah. People are worried about the civil liberties of people. There is no constitution right now. The Constitution has been suspended for quite some time. Since the lockdown, the Constitution has been suspended. So that's why you see gun shops and stuff like that closed. They're considered non-essential because your Second Amendment doesn't matter at this point. You know, I've said this many times on here before, man. I was in Boston when the Boston Marathon bombing happened. When they locked down the city, you had no rights. You couldn't go anywhere. And if you had guns, they were coming into your house and they would take it from you. I mean, that was the sort of lockdown that they had. So I'm not sure why people's civil liberties would be of a concern at that point. If there's a lockdown, there's a lockdown. No buses, no trains, no nothing. You're not going anywhere. That was a real lockdown. This is like this is just half stepping at this point. So let me read this article real quick. This is from fastcompany.com. Scientists are racing to design a face mask that can rip coronavirus apart. 8-minute read. In the nascent days of the COVID-19 pandemic, Jianxing Huang watched as the novel virus overwhelmed the hospitals in his native China. A professor of material sciences and engineering at Northwestern University, he contacted colleagues back home to brainstorm how to apply their expertise to mitigate future pandemics and sent the subsequently published suggestions to the National Science Foundation. The NSF had a similar idea, eventually putting out a call for rapid response non-medical research grant proposals to address the spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. But not before awarding Huang in mid-March, he became the first material scientist to receive a $200,000 grant to develop a chemical add-on for traditional masks that can destroy COVID-19. Now, Huang and his team have put their other research aside to concentrate on this new project. I was trying to motivate my peers and students that even though we don't work on the front lines or in virus-related research, there are still ways we can help, says Huang. We want to be a part of the long-term effect to contribute, not just the current pandemic, but to be better prepared for future ones as well. Studies have shown that masks and respirators reduce coronavirus spread and infection rates. And several states are mandating them in public or when not practicing social distancing. Increased demand coupled with shortages have caused their average prices to as much as quadruple. Medical technology analysis firm Life Science Intelligence estimates that global sales of masks and respirators will exceed pre-pandemic estimates by 211% and 305% respectively, depending on how the COVID-19 virus spreads. With medical grade masks and respirators in short supply for healthcare workers and civilians making do with makeshift fabric versions, the quest is on for more effective antimicrobial and reusable face protection for everyone. It's particularly urgent in the US, the global leader in COVID-19 cases, which have climbed to nearly 1.4 million and threaten to worsen as states relax shelter-in-place measures. Right now, the gold standard for protecting people from the virus is disposable medical-grade N95 respirator, which traps particles through layers of filters and electrostatic charge. This enables N95 respirators to filter out 95% of non-oil particles as small as 0.3 microns in diameter. Although the coronavirus is smaller, between 0.05 and 0.2 microns in diameter, wearing masks with smaller pores is problematic because they make breathing more difficult. The N95 masks instead thwart the virus's path with multiple layers. While static electricity draws SARS-CoV-2 to the fabric, however, they are made for one-time use since liquids and humidity dampen those charges and render the mask less effective the more they are worn. See, we talked about this earlier on the onslaught of this live stream. This kind of goes to what I was talking about. You have these people walking around with these masks for the last 4 weeks. How effective are they really?
They're counter-infective given that like they've trapped all those microbials in their mask.
Especially if they've been blowing snot in them and whatnot. I can't imagine that they're any useful at that point. Even before the pandemic, researchers and manufacturers from around the world were trying to create reusable masks that both filtered and destroyed bacteria and viruses. A number of antimicrobial masks already on the market use copper-infused filters and nanofabrics, which are engineered with tiny particles to give them enhanced attributes like water, odor, and microbial resistance. Copper has long established antimicrobial properties that include killing the COVID-19 virus within 4 hours. Positively charged copper ions attract and trap bacteria and most viruses, which are negatively charged. The copper ions then penetrate the microbes and destroy their ability to replicate, significantly reducing the number of infectious particles that might get through the pores of the mask. But just having antimicrobial layer or coating isn't enough. People shopping for such masks need to consider a combination of factors. The pore size, the number and type of layers, as well as the seal. For example, medical N95 respirators have metal bars that wearers can bend so the top edge conforms to their nose bridge and lower cheeks. One of the ways in the COVID-19 is spread is through nose and mouth secretions, and probably by airborne transmission, like breathing out the virus. So it's called Fitchenbaum, an infectious disease professor at the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine. If somebody were to sneeze or cough, the mask should not fall off their face. So you have to know whether the copper or the chemically enhanced mask have the same ability as an N95 mask to form a tight seal. And whether there are sufficient layers to prevent droplets or airborne particles from getting through. Masks that use the copper technology vary widely in terms of degrees or effectiveness, price, and longevity, with some intended for healthcare use and others purely as an upgrade from fabric masks. Costs for single masks generally run from $10 to $70, with antimicrobial properties lasting from 30 washes to the life of the product. Some companies have tested their products against other viruses, though none have against COVID-19, which requires highly specialized facilities that aren't readily available. Virus size, and infectivity level, and chemical properties vary and influence how well masks work. Some high-tech masks come at a high price in the $50 to $70 range. Israeli fiber technology company Argaman has one featuring 4 copper infused layers in copper oxide filters from Czech firm Rispolin, which also sells its own mask. Israeli startup Sonovia uses zinc oxide coating in 5-micron filtration that is used to last a year. Companies that specialize in copper-infused antimicrobial apparel and mask specialty outlets offered more affordable versions. Copper compression and UK-based copper clothing offer 4-layer mask blocking 99% of particulates, while copper mask uses 6-ply copper and HEPA filters blocking 92%. Another company, Kuhn Copper Solutions, founded by microbiologist Phyllis Kuhn, an early advocate of copper use in hospitals, specializes in copper mesh masks and inserts that can be combined with traditional or cloth versions. You can also find copper-infused cotton masks at some furniture and apparel outlets like the Futon Shop, Custom Ink, and Adams Shoes that hopped on the copper bandwagon by leveraging existing production pipelines. The pandemic has also prompted universities from around the world to step up research into the mask technology, most notably through integrating antiviral chemicals or repurposing water filtration techniques. Rather than reinvent the copper-infused mask, Northwestern's Huang is looking at an inexpensive way to incorporate chemicals traditionally found in sanitation products, which are known to deactivate a broad range of viruses. He's looking into sprays as well as chemically treated fabrics, patches, and inserts for disposable or DIY masks, all of which would ramp up the effectiveness of existing masks. I'm not going to read this whole thing because this is just about the mask that we're not going to be able to get at this point. But in battling COVID-19, even the most effective masks need to work in conjunction with other protective measures like social distancing and hand washing. And it may be too early to know if high-tech masks work better than the simpler cousins. The bottom line, of course, is that you have to have this tested in a real life environment to see whether what you say it does, it actually does, says Fitchenbaum. There's been testing on a variety of masks with different results from different viruses. Not every virus is the same. This is this is something that we talked about this at the opening of the live stream, that people are walking around with these masks since March. I don't know. You haven't changed your mask in the last 6 weeks. What's the value behind that?
it's almost like not changing your drawers for 6 weeks.
Well, go commando.
I mean, if it's the only pack of underwear you got, I mean,
Just turn them inside out.
Wash
dude.
water, laundry detergent, go a long way.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I know people still using their masks from March. We're May going into June. What are you going to do? How effective is that mask at this point? Now, they say that the mask is for you and it's not for the other party. It's so that you can't spread the virus if you had it. But even if you had it, you're recirculating that thing in that mask at some point. That mask is it's going to break down. The material is going to break down over time. And they're saying with an N95 mask, it should kill the bacteria within 4 hours. But that's the most highest grade mask you can buy. Most people are not walking around with a N95 mask. They're walking around with a bandana on their face, looking like Yosemite Sam.
Or they're wearing like a painter's mask.
But not even that. Guys,
Like the Home Depot, the little cheap Home Depot joint.
Yeah, that's the stuff like sheetrock.
the whole cheap little.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. Crazy. I mean, who knows what could have been done with hemp-based materials for the mask? That could be, killing the COVID-19 virus before it even gets to somewhere.
Mike, the problem there, man, and it's funny that you bring that up because it kind of illustrates how as a country, man, there's so many different ways where not being progressive minded about our industries and stuff kind of left us in a lurch for some shit like this. Imagine had we legalized hemp, because that was just recently, bro. It wasn't that long ago. We didn't get into the hemp game. It was just a couple of years, man. We've been in this now. But let's just say it was legal 20 years ago to grow it. We could have probably had small firm startups and stuff that would have probably had things like hemp-based masks using hemp microfibers and all that type of stuff. We probably could have had that, man, if we were thinking right.
Yeah. And then that would spark up the legalization to produce, the agricultural component behind it. We need to produce more hemp.
I mean, do we have any examples of countries that have been progressive with hemp? Where it's
Uganda. It shipped its first batch to Israel.
Wait, hemp or cannabis?
Oh, it's cannabis. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say because industrial hemp has been grown in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like here in the States, it wasn't until the 2014 agricultural bill where that's when it became legal to grow it. It wasn't legal and then it was 2018 when or 2017 so 2018 when the farm bill passed, that was when hemp fully went legal. So it took us the better part of the 2010s to get it right as a nation, when other nations they far beat us to the punch.
Yeah, definitely. But no testing has been done as of yet. But they say we need a isolated test environment. Well, you got a lot of shipping containers sitting on the docks in outside of LA, outside of Long Beach, that could be repurposed for testing.
And it could probably be had real cheap right about now.
For free. Take them things off my damn dock.
Take them. Just come get them.
Yeah. Yeah, this is from BostonGlobe.com. I'm not subscribed to Boston Globe, but I think the caption is actually pretty exemplary of it. For hospitals, the coronavirus crisis extends deep into their finances. Massachusetts medical centers are projected to lose $5 billion in revenues through July. $5 billion.
Wait, I'm sorry. How much?
$5 billion in revenue through July.
Through July?
Yeah, the year's not even going to be over.
I was going to say July of this year.
Yeah.
God damn.
Through July. So hospitals are running on fumes at this point. Is the White House going to do something about this? They've been propping up the those stimulus checks for those businesses.
Oh yeah, for Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Lakers.
Yeah.
They got money, bro. Fuck
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
For real.
But hospitals is burning through what they're what 5 billion projected by you done projected to lose $5 billion by July, right? But the Lakers is getting man, come on, dude.
Yeah, and we've been covering this since day one. Back in December, we was covering this with Dr. Phoenix. Shout out to Dr. Phoenix. We knew a COVID recession was coming with this. And people said, oh, if you just open up the businesses, everything will be just fine. The hospitals are hurting. Okay, this is just in Massachusetts. We're not even talking about the rest of the 48, 49 states.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is just an indicator.
Yeah, you multiply that times the other states, you're talking $1 trillion by July. What is the Fed going to do about that? The Fed just propped up the market last week, $1 trillion a day, but they ain't got no money for the people though.
Yeah, that's that's an interesting statistic, man. I wonder how much money the hospitals are losing behind all this shit.
So, are you speaking about losing revenue based upon them eating the cost of treating COVID patients?
Well, just not being able to take on any other.
Yeah, because you got to realize, dude, there's people who their regular appointments got canceled, right?
They
So
furloughed a lot of people.
Yeah,
True.
claims, billing, all that shit ground to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
All of it ground to a halt. So claims weren't getting paid. Well, hospitals couldn't submit bills, or they could submit them. There was no one on the other end to pay them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So claims are going to be, and man, Mike, that's the next nightmare. What about all the claims that have stacked up during this time?
Yeah, that's enough to bankrupt any hospital.
I'm about to say, what about shit? Let's look at the claims that have been filed. You think insurance companies are going to pay on all this shit?
Mm-hmm.
No, they will definitely mostly not.
Thank you.
No.
It's a health crisis for them. So government got it to come in.
They got, bro.
You would hope they would.
They-
You would hope they would. I don't know, man. So many people in the manosphere have not taken this seriously.
I mean, because dude, like the thing about it is, man, like people still are kind of doing this head in the sand. They're doing this head in the sand shit. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if like the future is much of a priority to them right about now, because I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about like little scenarios like that dude, that just never even crossed my mind. Like, God damn. So yeah, hospitals, right? They haven't been making any money because see, I used to be a claims examiner, and it's like, okay, so hospitals have to submit the claims. They submit them to the insurance companies. Insurance companies pay. They pay the, so there's a whole system that happens here, right? But when that halts and then claims still stack up, okay, now there's going to be a backlog of claims. So is there going to be a backlog of payments, or are the insurance companies then going to go and claim, well, hey, we had a grievance too?
Right. First position on a lien, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's like fuck, dude. Honestly, because Mike, I send you, I'll be sending you some shit. Like when Dylan Radigan really be going down like the rabbit hole on a lot of like stimulus policy and shit like that. He brings up a lot of scenarios, bro, that I think the average person just don't be thinking about. Like, damn, like the crescendo effect. Like, it never occurred to me how the hospitals interlinked with the insurance companies are going to create another insurance bubble mess with all of this. Just to hospital claims, man. I can already see there being a big thing about claims being paid during this time.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of hospitals a lot of clinics may not make it. If they weren't
Exactly, dude.
Before,
exactly.
If they weren't getting support before, they're not going to get it now. I mean, you have a lot of small businesses right now that are going underwater that will never come back. 95% of Black businesses
Did I get help from the Small Business Association?
Dude, nobody got it, bro. Nobody got it.
No, 95% of Black businesses that applied never got any support from the government.
Yeah, and then just as a whole, I forgot what the number was from just small businesses as a whole that didn't get any. Yeah. Shout out to the Lakers though.
The Lakers. All right, let me read this last one on the docket. Kismikia Corbett spent her life preparing for this moment. Can she create the vaccine to end a pandemic? This 34-year-old African-American woman scientist is a rarity, but with increased visibility comes increased scrutiny. All right, spin this out. Halfway through the school year, Meredith Bradshaw found herself paying close attention to a little girl called Kizzy. She always looked sharp with ribbons knotted to her ponytails and socks that matched every outfit. But it was the way she rushed to help other fourth graders with classwork that really stood out. She had so much knowledge, the teacher recalled she knew something about everything. In 25 years at Oak Lane Elementary School in rural Hurdle Mills, North Carolina, Bradshaw had not seen a child like her. Bradshaw was one of the few Black teachers, and Kizzy was a rare Black student. At a parent-teacher conference, Bradshaw pushed to give the girl the advantages she felt she deserved. Look, she recalled saying to her mother, Rhonda Brooks, she's so far above other children, we need to send her to a class for exceptional students. I need you to say we have your permission. Bradshaw's recommendation put Kismikia Corbett on a path that ultimately led her to the National Institutes of Health, where she is heading the government's search for a vaccine to end the coronavirus outbreak that has infected more than 1.2 million Americans, killed over 70,000, and devastated the economy. Corbett, 34, is a long way from the tobacco and soybean farms that surround her old elementary school. The advanced reading and math classes at Oak Lane prepared her to become a high school math whiz. She was recommended for Project Seed, a program for gifted minorities that allowed her to study chemistry in labs at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill as a 10th grader. She accepted a scholarship for minority science students that paid her way through the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and introduced her to NIH. I didn't know Kizzy had gone that far until recently, said Bradshaw, now 72 and retired. I figured she would, but I thought I probably would never hear about it. But her high perch comes with more visibility and added scrutiny. On February 27, Corbett posted a pictures that match. What the fuck? On February 27th, Corbett posted a tweet that lamented the lack of diversity on President Trump's coronavirus task force. The task force is largely people, white men, he appointed to their positions as director of blah, blah, blah institute. They are indebted to serve him, not the people. And as public health officials were reporting startling data that showed that the virus was disproportionately killing African Americans, Corbett vented on Twitter. I tweet for the people who will die when doctors has to choose who gets the last ventilator and ultimately who lives. She wrote March 29th. When someone responded that the virus is a way to get rid of us, Corbett replied, "Some have gone as far as to call it genocide. I plead the fifth." That triggered a response from Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who read several of Corbett's tweets aloud on his show and questioned her commitment to scientific inquiry and rational thought. He accused Corbett of spouting lunatic conspiracy theories. Two news organizations reported that the Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, where Corbett works, was investigating her tweets. But the agency has said it had merely advised her of its social media guidelines. Since the controversy, Corbett has scaled back her use of social media. She stopped appearing on television, and the NIAID declined to make her available to the Washington Post for an interview, saying a deluge of requests threatened to interfere with her work. In an administration in which the president has had a tenuous relationship with his own scientists and experts, Corbett's diminished visibility raised eyebrows. Her defenders say she was ridiculed for speaking the truth. I don't think there's anything that she said that's outlandish, that goes against any type of code or standard, said Robert Bullard, a professor of urban planning and environmental policy at Texas Southern University in Houston. What I've seen parade across the state in the task force, other than the Surgeon General, are all white people, said Bullard, who is Black. To look and see these horrific, disproportionate numbers of African Americans dying of coronavirus vindicates her tweet. She knew this virus would be like a heat-seeking missile that would target the most vulnerable. African Americans make up 80% of people hospitalized for COVID-19 in Georgia, and at one time, 72% of those who died in the disease in Chicago. Oliver Brooks, president of the National Medical Association and Organization of Black Doctors, said Corbett was right to point out the dearth of Black doctors and researchers on the White House team. "I'm sorry, we should be represented on the task force," he said. She was just stating a fact. Corbett's tweet about the ventilators reflects a long and painful history of disparity in medical care and health outcomes experienced by African Americans, Brooks said. One of the most notorious episodes which sowed deep distrust in the medical establishment took place from 1932 to 1972, when the U.S. Public Health Service allowed syphilis to progress in Black men without their knowledge, denying them treatment with penicillin. Long after the experiment ended, studies have shown white doctors spend more time with white patients than those who are Black and prescribe different treatments. Life expectancy for African American men and women is shorter than those than for non-Hispanic whites, according to the federal government. And the death rate for African Americans is higher than for whites for a variety of ailments, including stroke, heart disease, cancer, asthma, influenza, pneumonia, and diabetes. But Corbett's tweet about genocide concerns me a little bit. Brooks said, "It's subjective. I wouldn't want to go there. I really don't believe that. We're dying at a higher rate, but that one just doesn't fit." Still, if Corbett's vaccine is successful, none of that really matters, Brooks said. "I don't really care if she told me she doesn't like my mama," he said. "If she finds the vaccine, I'll buy her lunch. I'd say, I like your politics, but I sure like your vaccine." Yeah, expand this back up. Corbett's team completed the first chemical trial for the development of a vaccine in early March. Working at a furious pace at the Kaiser Permanente Washington Health Research Institute in Seattle, the team hopes to have a vaccine by the middle of next year. She's one of the hardest working workers I know, said Freeman Albowski, president of UMBC, where Corbett studied as an undergraduate from 2004 to 2008. People don't know how hard she works. She is an extraordinary human being with a passion for science and helping people. Corbett attended UMBC on a full ride as part of the Meyerhoff Scholarship Program aimed at increasing diversity among future leaders in science, technology, engineering, and related fields. The program's director, Keith Harmon, recalled how Corbett walked into the room with 25 other high-achieving minority students. I remember a very energetic, really outgoing young person, a people person, Harmon said. You could just see in their eyes what it meant to be in the space with people who look like them and have their same drive and goals. It's kind of like they found their people. Sounds like the brain trust. Corbett was intent on building on what she's had learned each summer. Her first stop in 2005 was the Stony Brook School of Health Technology and Management in New York, where she studied under Gloria Vabald, an associate professor of medical molecular biology and program director of clinical laboratory sciences. Vabald noticed what Bradshaw saw in Corbett years before as she quickly mastered unfamiliar genetic cloning techniques and devoured background literature. She was always ahead of the other students, completing an assigned poster and mock publication well before they were due. Vabald wrote in a recommendation to the UNC doctoral program that she provided to the Post. In 15 years of training undergraduate students, I must note that seeing a student as enthusiastic about research as Kizzy is extremely uncommon. In 2006, Corbett spent a year at University of Maryland School of Nursing, where Susan Dorsey, a professor and chair of Department of Pain and Translational Symptom Science, ran a lab that allows students to perfect their work with wet chemicals. Some folks, it takes them a fair amount of time to learn the language and develop the skills, Dorsey said. She was very quick to thoroughly understand every single step, which for an undergraduate student is fairly remarkable. Every student realized she would definitely be a superstar, sort of not in if, but when. 4 years later, she was in the doctorate program at UNC Chapel Hill, spending her summers studying diseases such as dengue and coronavirus at what had become a familiar place, NIH. She worked on that for 4 or 5 years and was kind of a leader, said Ralph Barrett, who served on Corbett's thesis committee at UNC. She actually had most of the pioneering data. Her interest put her in the position to assume a leadership role if a pandemic were to strike. It was a fortuitous move that required a little bit of luck, some foresight, and a need for her type of expertise, Barrett said. At NIH, Corbett was not shy about her ambition. During a summer internship there, Barney Graham, who ran the Vaccine Research Center, asked her what she wanted to achieve in life. She said, "I want your job." Graham recalled, according to NBC News, from every beginning, she was really pretty bold in her aspirations. When Bradshaw learned Corbett was leading the team that could save lives and restart the economy, she swelled with pride. "I always thought she is going to do something one day," she said. She dotted I's and crossed T's the best way in my 30 years of teaching. I don't know, man. She's on another level. But Dr. Phoenix has talked about this a lot, about
Yo, is this the chick that Tariq exposed on Twitter?
I don't follow Tariq, so I don't know.
Wait.
All right.
Sure.
So before we get into the slander, I just she's doing great work here, and this is a pretty commendable considering that she's 34, a Black woman in her field.
Absolutely commendable.
What is Mr. Mac Lessons doing slandering a doctor who's trying to create vaccines? What? What? Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know if it's her, but like she had some crazy ass tweets like where she was debasing a lot of debasing Black men.
Really?
Yeah, she's. I don't want to. I don't know for sure if it's her, because like she's African, right? She's African, right?
No, she's African American.
She's African American.
Okay.
Yeah, she's ADOS. That's what they say. I don't follow Tariq, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't either, but I just think, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That what Mike was just saying maybe 20 minutes ago about how people in this space not taking all of this type of shit seriously. Yeah, that whole part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was her.
I tip my hat to her, man, for what what her capabilities are. It seems like North Carolina seems to produce the most sapiosexual women in terms of the community. So I don't know what it's about North Carolina, but
North Carolina, really?
Yeah. Yeah, the last Nigerian woman I had dealt with was from North Carolina. She has a PhD as well. Same way as Miss Corbett here, had really just high revenue in terms of intellectual capacity and whatnot. So,
interesting.
Very low on the sexual capacity.
What is that?
Wait, what did you say?
I said very low on the sexual capacity.
Oh man.
God damn, dude.
You must have got that liquor, man.
Give her the benefit of the doubt, man.
Yeah, I give her the
man. She might surprise you, dude. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is that John Bolton?
No, that's not John Bolton. That's his brother, Mike Bolton.
Nah, that's whatchamacallit. That's what's his name, man. Smithers. No, not Smithers. What's
Flanders.
Flanders.
Oakley Dokley.
Oakley Dokley.
Yeah. No, Giggity Giggity is wrong one.
Yeah, that's what's his name? Quagmire.
Oh yeah. Quagmire.
Yeah, but I don't know much about her other than what I just read in this article. I had been hearing about her name for the last couple of weeks, and then I finally decided we're gonna just put her on the docket. But
right. Well, I mean, her coming, her saying those tweets about this stuff, sort of, kind of making the face of making Black folks the face of this thing. I'm not gonna say that her observations aren't accurate, because it just seems like, every time you hear about coronavirus deaths and shit like that in the States anyway, it's always Black people.
Right.
You'll hear a couple, this person, yeah, but it just seems like it's just Black people, right? So that's not an inaccurate observation, especially for someone like her. Now I did see this other video. It was maybe it's like Sunday, and this is a Black doctor, and the Black doctor, he was more or less speaking to the social distancing aspect, because I guess Georgia or one of these states basically said we're open for business, right? And then niggas got all together in a parking lot at some little shopping complex or whatever, and just had them a grand old time. And it was just like a ton of them, right? So the doctor was commenting on the video. This is a brother, he's a doctor. And he was saying that he's like, look, the thing you guys have to understand is that there are no like standardized medications for COVID-19. Okay. He said everything for COVID-19 pretty much is experimental. Okay. There's no actual medication that you take for COVID-19. So you're kind of just, they're kind of throwing stuff at this. And if Dr. Phoenix, I don't know if he's out there, if he wants to come on and maybe corroborate this or give us some clarity on this. I just thought this is a very interesting point, because from what I know, there isn't like just a base medication for COVID-19.
There isn't. There is none.
Yeah.
There is
So
There is none.
So this brother was basically saying, he's like, look, what y'all got to understand is that if you come in here and they find that you're carrying that the COVID-19 antigen or whatever the hell, then what ends up happening here is that you're basically going to get experimented on. Okay.
Right.
Like the short and skinny of it is that you're about to get experimented on. And so if we're looking at our outcomes from this, I mean, it would kind of sort of make some sense if what's been happening is that Black folks just getting experimented on and the shit ain't working out.
Well, there's a lot of, there's a lot of groping in the dark in terms of a
totally
solution.
agree with
So, that's just a matter of things. I know turmeric and
Cayenne
pepper and garlic and all these other sort of organic based.
Rye whiskey.
That's for you, bro.
Nah, you got it. It's a I forgot what it's called because my sister made one for me on Saturday, dude. It's a shot. It's like it was ginger, cayenne, turmeric, and there was a few other things, man. And it was hard to take down, but damn, dude, like you felt it.
A lot of doctors are finding that they're getting great results from just getting vitamin C, corticosteroids.
Yeah, vitamin C.
Some level of aspirin, which they used back in 1918. Okay, which was like the main treatment. So it seems to be working like that again, and just straight up, instead of putting people on ventilators, oxygen, and some people are coming out of that. There's a drug that I forget the name of it, a Respiradiol. I forget what the drug is that they use. It's some experimental drug the FDA has that they use that seems to be working okay. Dr. Phoenix knows that I'm forgetting the name of it again. I don't know why. I don't have it written down in front of me, but this drug that they do have, experimental, it seems to give some decent results, but we don't know if it's giving results like that all the way around. And right now, the treatments that they're using for it are more or less trying to, clear, at least keep the lungs clear with antibiotics, if they can, and hopefully you can get to breathing on your own, and give you some stuff to hyper up your immune system and give you some anti-inflammatory, steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And is this basically, either you make it or you don't? That's kind of where we are right now.
It depends on the stage too. I know you're saying the vitamin C and whatnot, but that must be at the early stages, not at the later stages.
Yeah. But just saying at the early stages, they're giving it. Like Tom Hanks and all them had it. They gave him, Tylenol, and they gave him some albuterol, which helps open up the lungs a little bit. Gave him a little treatment of that to open up the lungs, and that they use for asthma. And that helped open them up there, and vitamins, I guess, and whatever. And as the temperature came down, and they seemed to be breathing halfway decent, they sent their asses on home. It's just, there is no treatment, man. There's no one shot, bang, give them a shot of this XYZ drug, and you're good. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist for this right now. Doesn't exist. And we know apparently what this virus is supposed to somewhat look like. And so forth, where in 1918 they didn't have any idea of what a real virus really was, the way it was back then. But still, their treatments were similar to what we have today. It's kind of scary, man. I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Man. Yeah. To answer Money God Trading's question in the chat, he asked me which part in North Carolina, Durham.
Yeah, Raleigh, Durham, where all the, what is that? Is that Chapel Hill and
the RD,
all the universities over there.
Yep. We got Dr. Phoenix on the panel. What's going on, man?
Yeah, he's here. Hey,
Hey,
Dr.
Good
Phoenix, what was the
evening,
name of that?
brothers.
What was the name of that
Redemsivir.
drug that they were using?
What's going on?
What's going on, brother? Redemsivir. That's what.
Yeah, Redemsivir. Okay, there you go. That's it.
Yeah. There's a few points I wanted to just express really quickly.
Mhm.
The article you guys had a couple articles back about the use of copper.
Yep.
To be really clear, the use of metals, specifically copper, silver, these have long been used for thousands of years to fight bacteria. Again, if you go back to some of the olden days, one of the things they used to do when a baby was born was that they would actually put silver. They would put
I
silver, yeah, silver drops of silver in the baby's eye. It's diluted, obviously. They would put drops of silver eye drops in the baby's eye. Why? Because prevent the baby from getting eye infections after birth. So, the use of metals in treatment of bacteria and viruses has been used for hundreds, thousands of years. And so, a lot of things that we know now have been known forever. It's just that I do agree that, to an extent, I think the things that we use to make masks, and specifically when you think about N95 masks, because I have quite a few of those, because that's the only people that get N95 masks these days are basically medical personnel. That Amazon won't even sell it to you unless you can verify you're a medical person. So, but I do think that there is evidence that at least anecdotally suggests that the use of masks does prevent the spread. However, again, you do have the buildup of the virus in the mask, so people coughing, breathing, whatever. If you are a carrier, you do have that buildup, and so yeah, if you're reusing that mask, yeah, the effectiveness of it can be somewhat in question. I would agree with that to an extent. But however, as a means of purely preventing the spread from asymptomatic people to unaffected individuals, I think it does help in that regard. But I think primarily when we saw the original use and why people start buying because they thought, oh well, the mask is going to protect you from getting coronavirus. No, it doesn't do that.
Mhm.
It doesn't do that at all. Wearing your typical surgical grade masks do not do that. That's why people were making a run for the N95 mask, because they actually have a filtration system that actually can capture the particles. But again, everybody I know that has N95 masks, and they've been reusing it for weeks, months, because they're having to re-cleaning and stuff like that. And at that point, I don't really see them being all that effective. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we have an issue where you have a bottleneck of supplies, and still this is a problem.
Mhm.
And this kind of segue into what you guys are talking about with the testing. You were right with what you said earlier, Mike, that the contact tracing, all this shit should have been done back in January.
Oh yes.
When we started to see some of the initial, when we started to see some, when you had like a handful of cases in the States,
Mhm.
that's when that contact tracing should have began. Because a lot of the studies now seem to at least suggest that, yeah, even by January, they're suggesting that you had hundreds of thousands of people in the States that were already infected by that time.
They're saying that in October of 2019, they were finding infections.
This goes back to something that Nagone had brought up, and I had second a few weeks, about a month or so ago, when we were talking about some of the leaked documents that came out of the administration that were warning them, going way back to November, even September of
Yep.
Of
the coronavirus.
2019, they knew it. They knew
Yeah,
it.
Look,
yeah.
why you think I was sitting up here? Why you think I was sitting up here thinking, like, when I think back, I'm like, shit, dude. Like, my whole household got hit. Dude, I was sick for like a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like back in December, bro. Like, I'm like, when I think back, I'm like, shit.
That's right, Complex.
I had to take a whole week off of work.
Well, I was having a conversation with one of my friends.
I had a friend.
Same.
Same thing happened to him. He actually he had an upper respiratory infection.
Yeah.
He lost his sense of smell and taste. He was in the hospital for 4 days. He didn't know what the freak it was. He came out of it, and he just thought it was a bad flu. But I think it was COVID. I think a lot of people had it. And
Yeah,
Dr.
well,
Phoenix, you may have been exposed. You never know.
well, here's the thing. It's funny that you all bring that up because back in early January, I had got sick for like a couple of weeks, and it was one of those things. I think I talked about it a while back, but
I remember.
yeah,
I remember.
I had got sick for a couple of weeks, and like, damn, it was like something like I couldn't really shake it, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm, and I was down for about almost 2 weeks. It was like a
Yeah,
period of time where you guys didn't.
Your voice was gone. You couldn't actually get on the panel. I remember that.
I literally remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so man, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised I had been exposed to it. And I had a friend I was talking to about a month ago. He's a postal worker, and he was telling me like, yeah, he had it back in like early January. He had to take like a couple weeks off, and he had lost his sense of taste and smell and all that. And he's like, man, it was just like my body was hurting all over. He said, dude, I don't know what the hell it was. I'm like, yeah. And I think that's part of the problem why the numbers are so heavily skewed and why the numbers that we're seeing now are far from what they really are.
Yeah.
Right now, the numbers we're looking at now, there's over like 4.2 million or so people worldwide who have been infected, but the U.S. is about a third of all of the coronavirus cases. So the U.S. has about 1.3 million total confirmed coronavirus cases, and somewhere around 80 some thousand, 83,000 or so deaths. And so right now, what I'm saying, what I'm really getting at is that the numbers are a lot higher.
Yeah.
Because we're not even accounting for people that have died from mysterious circumstances during this period, and nobody has no clue exactly, what the hell happened.
Well,
People were
yeah.
mysteriously getting sick. You can identify the pathogen, and so yeah, that there's a lot right now that's going on. That once this is all said and done, and the numbers and the data and the studies start to come out, we're going to see that these numbers are a hell of a lot higher than what we think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you said, you felt like crap, felt like you got hit by an Infinity FX 45, man. No, but to the point about contact tracing and things like that, we had all the opportunity. Like I said before, when we would when we first got the alerts in the office about this coming out back in December and January, they immediately sent people home. Don't even bother coming to the office, man. Even if you sneeze or anything like that, don't bother coming in. But from a contact tracing perspective, no way would I open up the economy now and send kids back to school. It's absurd. It's the absurdity behind this. Why would you even want to do something like that? Dr. Phoenix?
I'm sorry, what was that, brother? I didn't quite hear that.
No, I was just saying, from a contact tracing perspective, I would have easily, just off the cuff, I would have easily have been able to design something leveraging all the technology that we have right now. And the policies I would have instilled, would have been, no, you're not going anywhere without some proper form of identification. You're not getting into my store. You're not going into any essential places without showing identification and us verifying who you are. Like, how do we know who's touching? I mean, who's coming in close contact with who unless we start doing tracing?
Because it has long been known that somewhere between 50 to 60% of all people who have the coronavirus are asymptomatic, don't display any symptoms. We don't know who they are. So again, this is where the importance of testing comes into play, because you do need to identify those who are asymptomatic carriers. Because again, and a lot of data now at least seems to indicate that we're starting to see like some really deleterious effects of people who have been exposed to the virus, in particular among younger people. So we're talking about people in their 30s, 40s, 20s, even children, where we're seeing folks who are having serious thrombolytic disorders as a result of the coronavirus, because the virus in of itself just causes massive levels of inflammation within the body. And so this is the new norm. I said this a few weeks ago on the panel. This is the new norm. People need to get used to it. Black folks need to get used to it. This is the new norm. All this bull crap going around about they're eroding your civil liberties. Look, niggas ain't been free yet. niggas ain't been free before the coronavirus. You ain't gonna be free now. And I'm just gonna keep this really honest with black folks because I think there's a lot of bull crap going around on YouTube and in social media in general from black folks. And again, black folks have still missed the damn point. Even if you reopen everything, they will still follow the social distancing rules. And you know what that means? Your stores will still only have, if you're lucky, maybe half capacity, more like a third of capacity, which means that yeah, that same store that same TJ Maxx or that Marshalls or that Macy's you walked around in that had hundreds of people, you know what? You're only gonna have maybe about 5 or 10 people.
Yep.
And you know what that means? You know what that means? That means the unemployment numbers are not gonna relatively change. Because you don't need that many people if you only got 10 people in the store at a time. And that's and when it comes to this identification, yes, that is gonna be a condition. At least until we get to a point where there's herd immunity and there's some type of vaccine on the market. Because again, when we're looking at vaccines, we're only looking at the adult population. We're not looking at the pediatric population. So people technically 21 and under, and specifically young children, where yeah, we might have a vaccine that might be readily available and effective for adults, but it may not work for children.
Hey, Dr. Phoenix,
Yeah,
we did bring up children in schools earlier.
Herd immunity.
Yeah, we
You
were
just
bringing
said something
it up.
about herd immunity.
No, Dr. Phoenix did. I was bringing up the fact we were talking about schools earlier in the
Well,
live.
I was going to say this with herd immunity. You know, a lot of people are going to die before you really get that right. Right? Wouldn't that kill a lot of people before you ultimately the herd becomes immune? A lot of people are going to die off.
Well, I mean, I would say that's probably going to be a condition right now. A lot of people are going to die from this regardless of what happens.
Yeah, with all these policies, yeah, we're going to open it up by June. Yeah, good luck. Not testing anybody. Good luck.
Complex, can you finish your point from earlier?
Yeah. Go ahead, Complex.
It was just I wanted to get his take on, because we were talking about schools, right? Mike was kind of talking about how now would be the time to actually look at other methods of other tools for education. He was saying that right about now this wouldn't really be the time to actually have kids go back to school. I was telling them, I talked to my daughter's teacher yesterday. They basically said, well, the plan is for school to start on the date that it was scheduled to start for the 2021 school year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, though, that they'll be going.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's largely going to be dependent upon what the hell's going on here within the next few months, right over the summer. What is...
Hey, Complex.
Yo.
Just want to... Are any kids in those classes? Have any of them come down and gotten sick? Are you aware of any of that from the school?
No, no, none. Like, it's been pretty subdued here, in this area where I'm at. There were some cases reported maybe late March, early April, and then you just really haven't heard nothing. Now, I think that the county that I'm in, they did some sort of thing over the weekend or like Friday or something, because on Saturday and Sunday, I went to the grocery store and it was packed both times and I didn't go in. I just said, I'll wait till the morning when no one's there. But it was packed, So, and then I talked to my partner and he was like, hey, well, look, man, they're talking about like Friday, the beaches are going to be open. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So that's supposed to be on Friday. So, just kind of given that, I mean, Dr. Phoenix, like, what's your take on like school specifically with kids, and all of this?
I would say parents should be prepared to be having extended periods of time with your children, because I don't see a scenario going forward where kids are going to be in classrooms. I don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you were to loosen the restrictions and say that, okay, yeah, we'll let the schools back in, the current guidelines will still be in effect. The current social distancing guidelines will still be in effect, which means that instead of classrooms with maybe 30 or 40 students, you're going to have classrooms maybe with 10, 15 students. Maybe.
Yeah.
I just don't. I just don't see that going forward. I mean, again, especially when we start talking about younger populations, children, school age children, where you got a third grader. First thing they do, they're coughing, then they're scratching their face, and rubbing their eyes, and all this other stuff. This stuff will spread like wildfire. And the same thing if you're dealing with college age students. The reason why you had colleges just wholesale kicking students out of the dorms was because, yeah, it's a damn health hazard. You can't have you get one sick college student in a dorm, and in a dorm of like 200-300 students. Oh, it's game over.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just can't have this many. You cannot have that number of people in such an enclosed area, and then expect them to not just.
Yeah. And that's the thing that no, I'm mad that I actually tossed the magazine away. It was a magazine that came into my inbox last week about facilities in COVID-19 and what custodians and janitors are going to have to do because who's going to clean the facilities if there's not enough PPE available. You have a lot of yeah, mute him too. Yeah, and so what's happening here is there is no real playbook available, at least from a state and city standpoint, how you should roll this out. I mean, I know some states are saying we're going to roll out in phases. For what? You haven't tested anybody. You haven't tested anybody. What's the point of that?
It's a retarded plan. I mean, it's all about economics. That's what it's really coming down to. My lady friend, she, her daughter is going back to school. She goes to the University of St. Louis, I believe. Yeah, and she's heading back down there. And they're trying to get these kids going. They're trying to get them back in school in August. And I'm like, what are you trying to throw all these kids back in the school for? Because they, no one's tested. If it breaks out on the campus, it's going to be insane. You got to shut school down again. None of this stuff makes any sense to me without any testing at all. So I think they're in a mad rush to try to get the economy going, but they're going to have to shut this thing down again when people start dropping like flies.
No one's going to go out there and spend their money because they don't have any money to spend. Spend money where? Where are you going to spend it? You ain't got nothing in your pocket. You're trying to keep up with rent and utilities. Yeah. Once your money has been spent on that, you're tapped out. I mean, we covered an article last week that said that most of these people, 70% of Americans, don't even have $1,500 in their savings account.
No, that's facts.
No, so you're talking about people being tapped out by Mother's Day. Mother's Day was real lonely for a lot of these women in the manosphere because they didn't get those super chats.
And they weren't teethy. It wasn't teethy out there for them.
No, there was a war going on in the manosphere during Mother's Day.
Just do that, man. Wow.
It's facts, man. It's facts, man. People weren't out there buying roses and stuff like that. And where were you gonna buy it from? There was nothing open.
No, I told you on Mother's Day, man, the grocery store over here was packed, bro, and I didn't go in because I was like, oh hell no. So like I said, I think out here, the county did some sort of measure over the weekend, and then I heard that down in LA they're gonna do something this coming weekend, and boy, I don't know, man.
It's a stupid idea to send people out there without being tested, without having contact tracing fully enabled. Oh, Apple and Google are going to work together to do what? To do what? It's you don't know who has a phone. I know many people who just use their phone for driving Uber, and you say that the the GPS or whatever it is showing that people aren't practicing social distancing. That guy left his phone in his car. You don't know what that phone is doing. You don't know where that phone is in proximity to the owner of the phone. You don't know. To me, it's silly. It's silly without actually having the proper playbook from the local city and state government to say you're not leaving this house until we actually know where you're going. You want to go to Whole Foods? Go to the city's website, download the app, and then ask for a permission slip or whatever it is, some permission to actually go out in public to these essential places so that we can understand where you're going. And as soon as those stores open up, they're checking for state ID as to who you are before you go into the store. Because once they go out, you don't know where they're going. You don't know who has what. No one's been tested. It's a big mess, and it doesn't have to be a big mess, in my opinion. I just think that whoever, whichever party it is that decides, well, we're going to open up, your party's finished. As soon as another wave hits, your party is finished. You're never going to get elected.
Another wave's going to hit for sure. But we see.
Yeah. Yeah. Cuomo said, prepare for a second wave already. I think he said that the other day. We
have guys here at the Westchester Department of Health, up one of the big warehouses they have up here. My brother found out they're making 3,000 pine box coffins. They're building them right now. They're making them now. The literal pine box.
Damn.
These boys are sitting here designing. They're putting them together because they're saying, listen, wave 2's coming. We got to have 2,000 to 3,000 on hand right now because we're not going to we ain't going to be throwing people in sheets or whatever. We're going to have to throw these people in these pine boxes that we making right here. And they're already anticipating it. They're already people who are walking around alive right now feeling good. They're going to be laying in one of them boxes at some point in time. So that's what they're doing right now in our county.
Man, this ain't fair, man.
What's not fair? The liquor store's not open?
Nah, like this is never in the plans in my life, man. Like my whole idea was to graduate college and then you just do your thing and you retire.
Mm-hmm.
This completely changes everything.
No, it's like Demolition Man.
It completely changes everything.
This is like Demolition Man.
One of my friends. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Demolition Man, they had the two helmets on. Remember Sly Stallone and and old girl, what's her name from Speed?
Sandra Bullock. Sandra Bullock.
Don't be touching me. So don't back up, bro. That type of deal, man. People can't have sex with each other anymore, man. No more intercourse. You gotta put that VR headset on, man, and get it on, man. That's the only way you're gonna be able to go. Go ahead, Nicole.
I was just thinking. One of my friends, he sent me a video. It was from the Predator, and he was like, I laughed because it was funny, but just because we're trying to break the tension. But it was that scene where you saw these badass dudes in the in the jungle. And man was like, "I'm scared, Poncho." He's like, "You're scared? You ain't afraid of no man." He's like, "No. Something out there hunting us, and it ain't no man." We're all gonna die. I was like, oh, he said that to me. I looked at that shit. I was like, damn, this is kind of real, man. This is kind of real. Man. So, and we're doing what we're doing is at this stage of the game, these deaths are going to be unnecessary. They're going to be totally unnecessary.
We must save the economy.
Oh man, it's so it's so dumb. You can't even fund the businesses that need help, and you're talking about opening up an economy. How suicidal is that, man? You're gonna send people out in public to do what? I mean, social distancing in a movie theater?
Man, social distancing at the beach.
Oh, the beach is plenty big. I think you can actually get away with something.
My
Like that.
Alamo movie theater over here closed down. They put boards on the walls. I'm tired. I'm tired.
This is
That was a great
also
theater. But
really going to change the nightlife
boarded
industry.
up, man.
Go ahead.
I said it's really going to change the nightlife industry also.
Oh yeah, they're gonna have to have curfews.
Oh, for sure.
They're gonna have to have curfews. No, when the street lights come on, man, you gotta go in the house.
Damn.
That's the end of it, man. All these thugs and whatnot that be running around the streets talking about me. I'll be holding out in the block. Niggas will be right in the house in bed with their motherfucking porridge.
From dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
When the street lights come on, you your ass in the house. And that includes daylight savings time, nigga. Like when it goes back 1 hour.
With your milk and cookies.
Eating cream of wheat with the lumps in it, man.
With the lumps.
Yeah, cream of wheat with the lumps in it, man. They didn't cook it right. A lot of people gonna be tight about that, man.
You forgot to stir, nigga.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of dudes out here talking tough, man. Like, man, in the pandemic, I'll kill a buffalo, I'll kill a moose, and I'll do all this tough guy stuff, and they sitting right on the live stream for 8 hours, ain't doing nothing with their life, ain't out there killing.
They hit the DoorDash during the live stream.
Yeah, DoorDash.
They hit the Uber Eats during the live stream, bro.
You know what's so sad. The sad part is that unfortunately for Black folks, man, they don't read, and there is no financial analyst, no economist out here that is not saying that we're seeing numbers akin to the Depression.
Yeah.
I mean, what do do you think this is about to turn around just because some damn states claim they're about to open back up? No. I mean, this is the silliness of it. I mean, look, Black folks can come up with their wild-eyed, old wives' tales and conspiracy theories all you want, but at the end of the day, the reality is that there's going to be a lot of folks. Most of Americans are going to be feeling some pain, and unfortunately, the pain that Black folks are going to be feeling is going to be on the scale unlike anything that most of us have seen in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us are getting hit now just with the disease. Lord knows when the financial game starts to really hit hard, it's going to be pretty bad. And Dr. Phoenix, man, you saw those boys up in Michigan rolling up on the state had guns. Somebody open this bad boy up, or we gonna start shooting. We're gonna shoot COVID. We're gonna shoot everybody. We're gonna shoot everyone. So you have folks out here that really want to push this. Some of these people are not believing in this virus thing. They're not believing in it. They want this thing open as well. You got very ignorant citizens out here that really want to push this too. You got to deal with that factor as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. And what I would say to this, natural selection would take its place.
Yeah, now the DNC conference is supposed to take place in Wisconsin, but I don't think so anymore.
Yeah, look, man, I'm in Wisconsin right now. There is no damn DNC convention. I got a friend. I've known this brother for over a decade. Currently he was running one of the Democratic presidential candidate primary candidates. He was running his campaign. He was his chief of staff. And I can tell you right now, him and I were talking about a couple weeks ago, and he's not even expecting a DNC convention. They go probably. He was telling me that they're probably going to end up doing something virtual, and it is what it is. Again, we're looking at a unprecedented scenario. I mean, we haven't seen something on this scale since the 1918 Spanish flu. And again, even though the Spanish flu had a higher mortality rate, the problem with the coronavirus, again, because Negroes don't read, is its infectious rate. We're talking about a pathogen that is highly infectious, far more infectious than the Spanish flu, far more infectious than the common flu, far more infectious than pneumonia, the common cold. We're talking about something that has a natural R0 value between 4 and 10. Okay? And what Black folks are not understanding is that this is key. The key to why you have these stay-at-home orders is because it is about giving the damn, not overwhelming your healthcare systems.
You got dudes out here, man.
I actually want to pose a question to Dr. Phoenix. There's in the media always, the discussions around like what's happening to Black Americans, but do we have any reports that you know of how this is actually affecting Mexican Americans, considering the industries that they work in and how they tend to live intergenerationally?
You say African Americans in terms of their working, the industries they work in?
Mexican Americans.
Oh, Mexican?
Yeah.
Typically, they will fall on the same lines as Black Americans.
Yeah.
Typically, many of the issues that have plagued Black Americans also play Latino Americans. Again, we know, Nagone is in New York, so he can probably speak to this, that, for example, in New York, the mortality rate from the coronavirus has been equally split among Latinos and Black.
Yep.
It certainly has been. It certainly has been.
Even
Latinos been getting hammered as well.
Yeah, even in Illinois, specifically in Chicago, where I'm from, the Black folks for the most part have been getting torn out the frame in Chicago. I mean, they're about 70%. But then right behind them are Latinos. So typically the same health issues and the same socioeconomic dynamics that affect Black people do also affect Latinos to maybe probably to a lesser extent, but nonetheless, they're still overrepresented in those numbers. So if you want to start someplace, I would start there. In general, it's just, I don't know. What we're seeing here is that really you're seeing natural selection take place. I mean, I know Black folks don't want to hear this, and this is probably not a popular thing to say, but this is essentially what's happening.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is, can be categorized that way, because I mean, you also, what about the people who are asymptomatic who are just spreading it around to people who are, doing the right thing?
The problem, I've explained this before, and the fundamental problem that most Black folks miss, most Black folks like to pretend and act stupid about, is that the reason Black folks are getting absolutely decimated by the coronavirus, Black people as a whole are probably the healthiest group in this country, minus Native Americans and Latinos, specifically Native Americans. The only other group that's unhealthier than Black people are Native Americans. And when you're looking at specifically the major issues that causes the major chronic health issues that Black people tend to have that will make them more likely to have complications of coronavirus are hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease. Those are the three major ones that are, and also I would add some reactive airway diseases, COPD, emphysema, asthma. But those four critical diseases are the ones that Black people tend to be overrepresented with, and the ones that are directly responsible for causing serious life-threatening complications from the coronavirus.
Yeah, in fact, one of my a friend of mine, my workout partner, he's got 54 years old. He just died Saturday. He was in the hospital for a month. Wasn't able to make it out, but he had underlying diabetes, and it just shows you these are the big killers of ourselves. So when I always say get your mind right, money right, get your body right. That body right shit, man. That dang on, man. That it's showing you just even how much more important that really is. Because if your body's not right, you're not working it right. You're letting disease get in there. You're not taking care of yourself the proper way. Body ain't right, man. We've seen it now. It's this shit is life and death, man. It's life and death. My roommate, not my roommate, my workout partner, he in fact got he got the corona. He got it. He had gotten it. He's 36. Swole and in beautiful condition and all that. And he was sick for a few days, but he walked through it. And I feel not only was his youth, but I think it was the fact that he was very healthy, very strong. And I believe that helped him. Other people who have underlying sicknesses and so forth, and he was exposed. He was exposed to some sick people at work. So it got him, but and he actually had it in the lungs for a little bit, but he was able to get it out of there. And
But Dr. Phoenix, what about Italian?
he walked right through it.
Fruity ass.
Fauci.
That was, man.
That was
Americans are fatter than Italians as a whole, right? So I mean, the numbers are still. What do you think is impacting the difference in the numbers between Italy and America?
Italy didn't lock down. That was the problem.
Yeah, the Italy's
Age, a
problem
lot of
is
elderly people getting hit over there.
yeah, Italy has an older population in general. The two, they were late to the party. Here in the U.S., the reason why and let's be clear here, the U.S. has more deaths than Italy, Spain, and UK combined.
Yeah.
So
Well, I don't know about combined.
Yeah, there's only about the
Combined.
UK has about 30,000
cases or deaths.
No, deaths from the coronavirus.
And then how many do we have here in the United States? We have 80,000 now or something?
It's around 83, 84,000 right now.
Yeah. So
the UK
Italy
has about 29,000. There actually, the UK is the country with the highest number of COVID-19 deaths. They surpassed Italy just this week.
Oh damn! Really?
Yeah. So the UK. Wow. So then it would be UK, Italy, Spain, then France.
And then you can throw Russia in there as well. Russia is speeding up as well.
Yeah, Russia's creeping
up.
Yeah, they're creeping up strong.
Yeah, so you have about somewhere around 4.2. Yes. So you have somewhere around 1.2 million total COVID-19 cases, and you have about 1.3 million of those are in the U.S. alone.
But it's showing you the healthcare issue here in this country, healthcare, and us really taking care of our health. It's showing you just this is really showing you where we're at, and how our community has been adversely affected by having poor healthcare and poor healthcare plans as well, because it's coming down social and racial lines.
Nagone, you're talking about getting the body right. In Texas, next week they're opening up the gyms. Like, are they doing that over in New York? And will you be going back to the gym?
Oh hell no!
Cuomo tight as fuck. When he gets up, he starts talking. He actually starts sounding like almost like a mobster. He's like, "What are you talking about? You're not opening." He starts talking like that. The guy starts getting tight. He's tight, man.
Oh yeah.
He's looking at this shit like it's crazy because the gyms, in my view, I think that those would be just breeding ground.
So,
off limits
for that.
Cuomo starts talking like he starts talking like a gangster. He starts sounding a bit like a gangster.
So then people are gonna start being like those what do they call those girls? Bartenders, those guys in New York that be up on the kids. So you're gonna see a lot of brolic dudes on monkey bars and on the playgrounds getting their workout in. Or what?
They were already doing that in the beginning.
They're already doing that, man.
Yeah, they've been doing that. You ain't seen those YouTube videos of some of them brothers doing that wild shit.
Man, that's cool.
They'll do it regardless. They'll do it regardless.
It's gonna be a line to get on the monkey bars, like little kids just waiting.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be a line because not a lot of people hit the gyms.
No, the city has already. Most cities have already said that you can't have more than 5 at a playground. I know at Cambridge they've completely put cages around the playground, so you can't even get to them.
So,
here in New York, they tore down a lot of basketball hoops in about 88 city parks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
88 city parks in New York. They tore them in basketball hoops because a lot of people was not listening to the warnings about staying inside and stuff.
They did the same thing here where I'm at too.
Damn. So Rucker Park is gonna be like one of them old. What's that game them old people play? The most Spanish people play, like bowling. It looks like bowling or something. What are they gonna do at Rucker Park?
You can't go
get a milk crate. Get a milk crate.
You can't go in there anyway.
No, man.
You're
I'm
in
telling
there,
you.
they're gonna remove you out of it.
Right now, it's it's
No. But how people how
it's been
how
cost-
people
yeah,
supposed to
highly
engage in physical activity then?
Yeah,
Do some push-ups.
I think
in
really
your
what
bedroom.
it's just like my neighborhood. People are walking and jogging and stuff. People are
Man,
walking
you
and
better
jogging.
do some jumping
They
jacks
walking
in
and
your
jogging.
bedroom. Shoot.
But they're home gyms because what's happened is a lot of the online equipment, like
Yeah.
if you want to buy like weights or bars and stuff like that, it's the back order is a long time because people are ordering stuff to their houses now.
Yeah, I know
So people are
Super
making their own
Trez-
little home gyms.
So,
Yeah, Super Trez is on the Bowflex heavy, so shout out to that.
so I have a question for you guys on the panel,
Right.
because this is supposed to be election year, voting.
Mhm.
So, and I know here in New York, I was listening to the radio this morning,
Mhm.
and a city official openly admit that there will be a second round of the COVID-19 pandemic that's going to hit New York on September,
Yep.
which is 2 months away from from voting, from the vote. So my question to you guys is, how crazy do you think the voting lines will be?
Not going to have any
if
voting
there
lines.
will be any voting line at all. But
No, they're not going to have any voting lines. What they've been talking about the last week or so is about is coming up with a solution for the blockchain, and people will just vote from home.
Oh, that means the Democrats will
Okay.
win.
Really? That's what they.
Yeah, that's on
That's
that's on the docket with the Senate.
So
So
why not extend voting for a week or 2 weeks instead of 1 day, like other countries do?
no, because you don't want to risk bringing anybody anywhere. You got people at the,
No, but to make it to where people can only come on certain days to go vote. Like if your last name starts with
the
this,
whole
you can.
purpose is not. If the whole purpose is to lock things down, you don't want to exacerbate it by bringing people out if you don't have to. If you don't have to do that.
Yeah, if you,
From a Republican standpoint, I would not like that because that means more people would have a chance to vote.
Well, that's the gamble.
Wait, why are you trying to deny voters?
I'm just saying from a Republican perspective that it's not an advantageous position for them because they win when voter turnout is low.
Got it.
Well,
Yeah, and this talk right now.
yeah, the
they-
Republicans are not going to want people.
but what this means is that as far as cybersecurity on the federal government's end have to be on point.
On point.
But not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, use same standard, security protocols and strategies is really not all that different. I mean, okay, they'll blame it on the Russians or something like that, or they'll blame it on the Chinese.
Yeah, how do you avoid the whole Russian bots again?
Well, you get for us in the field, we don't really pay too much attention to that, but that's what politically, that's what there will be. That will be their scapegoat because they lost the election. There must be somebody else, not them. But that's their problem. The IRS could have already figured this out, man. People pay their taxes online all the time. Why all of a sudden now you can't vote online? Bullshit.
Think about all the shit you can do online.
Oh, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Discover, they all have networks that can verify who's who.
We need to be like Estonia, where everything is online. People have e-passports and everything. You can have e-citizenship with Estonia.
Yeah, China's the same way.
So, but now
We've also talked about low key. We've also talked about Estonia being one of those countries that say in the next 20 to 50 years, you really do have to keep an eye on because they're leveraged in tech. Mike, there was a company, actually it was either the Estonian government or a company in Estonia that's already asteroid mining. Right? They already have a whole entire crypto infrastructure based around asteroid mining and shit.
I thought that was Luxembourg, but
was it Luxembourg?
Yeah, Luxembourg.
These small little European countries, they're real small ones. Okay, those are the ones to keep an eye on. Estonia is one of them. I think there's something in the crypto sphere with Estonia.
Yeah, they have their own coin. They have their own coin.
It's a country. There you go.
Yeah, but doesn't mean anything if you're a part of the European Union. You still have the euro.
There was something else though. It was in an article.
I don't think they're part of the Eurozone though. So they have more
like autonomy.
more autonomy.
Yeah, and there was something that we covered that was a major thing for Estonia in the long run, in the future. And that it just has like it's a small nation. That's what they're hedged on. They're hedged on tech. Basically, that's my point.
Yeah. Yeah, but when it comes to the pandemic, ain't nobody going out and spending no money.
Definitely.
That's not happening.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean much. The only reason they're not getting hit as much is because they had already locked down long before. We thought that Russia had done that as well, but we see that's not really the case. So although they locked down, they still got hit pretty hard.
For countries like Russia and Italy, like in terms of like their demographic pyramid structure, this is actually, from a fiscal standpoint, it's actually a positive for them.
Yeah.
It's a dub.
Well, for Russia, they don't have any debt, but for the Italians, they have a lot of debt. So, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out for them because they weren't getting any support before from the ECB.
And the German Supreme Court basically said that any form of bailout packages would be unconstitutional for them.
Yeah.
For the Germans, so they're shit out of luck.
Yeah, but meanwhile in America,
print.
Yeah, print more money, but they're not. But who's getting it though, right? So, they left the ban. They open up the shops all through these phases. It's not going to help. It's not going to help. You'll be much better off.
Helping the small businesses.
Huh?
No, I said it's not helping the small businesses and stuff. You're right.
No, because they already closed up anyways.
They're boarded up.
Yeah.
But are y'all not looking at the fact that America is built on that? This country can't stand. It just can't stand still. I mean, I'm just looking at it on the other side. It can't. It has to do something. So it's almost like, what do you want? What do you? They can't sustain it. They can't sustain themselves just standing still like this and waiting.
What are they going to do? What are you going to do about the market?
Demand's going to be
I don't
low.
know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying. I'm looking at it from. I guess I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I don't know.
You love being a devil, huh?
I mean,
what?
You love being that devil.
I have a question for Dr. Phoenix. I'm sorry. Basically, it's going to be a segue or a revival segue into COVID-19. But okay, for Dr. Phoenix, have you heard that there's new symptoms out there for COVID-19 as far as children's concerned? Because a lot of children,
Kawasaki disease.
A lot of children who are infected with COVID-19, they're having severe inflammation. I'm talking about inflammation of the lips, of the feet, of the hands, and specific organs. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. Yes. I'm familiar with that. Yeah, you're talking about. I think Jesus just mentioned it, Kawasaki disease. I mean, basically, it's pretty rare, but I mean, we're seeing all kinds of issues in children related to COVID-19, or at least what we believe to be COVID-19 related, where children are presenting with, severe skin rashes, um,
autoimmune disorders.
Yeah, autoimmune disorders, and so I mean, right now, we're not even sure. I mean, we're still just discovering just some of the more latent effects of COVID-19 exposure in adults, where you're seeing issues around severe blood clotting disorders, thrombolytic disorders. I mentioned this a few weeks back where I talked about DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. Even in children, we're seeing just weird stuff in general. I mean, a lot of it now is really preliminary. So the jury is still kind of out as to what some of the what are all the effects that COVID-19 will have on children. But right now, what we do know is that we're seeing some very severe issues popping up in children: skin diseases, skin rashes, Kawasaki's disease, and stuff like that, autoimmune disorders. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
No,
We can hear
I
you.
heard you.
We can
I'm
hear you.
listening.
Yeah.
I think 3 kids in New York died like this past week or
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
week.
to
3 children.
COVID related symptoms.
Yeah, which
I
is
want to.
Kawasaki.
Yeah. I want to say it was in Detroit about a couple weeks ago where they had a young girl, a young girl. I think she was about 5 or 6 or so. She died from COVID-19. So I mean, this idea. She was a young black girl, died from COVID-19. So this idea where, children are, necessarily are more resilient. They can't get it. They're immune to it. And black folks immune to it. I mean, we're just seeing a whole rebuttal of just really these old wives' tales and all this ghetto street scholar science, whatever you want to call it. So,
Mhm.
but again, black folks are still being overrepresented because what COVID-19 has really exposed is really the lack, the underpinnings of the lack of a public health system, and specifically health disparities among black folks. Not just in treatment, but really how black people in general, how this disease has been able to take advantage of a lot of the conditions that exist within black society. So, food insecurity, socioeconomic insecurity, bad living conditions, living in places where you have high automobile traffic and you're exposed to high levels of smog and lead and stuff like that. And so, again, and also too, just black folks' bad health habits in general. Bad eating habits, lack of
Well,
exercise,
I wouldn't,
lack of
I
physical
wouldn't
activity.
to just give a rebuttal. I mean, I don't think it's only black people. I just think it's exposed everything, and maybe we had the most rot under the wound, but it's exposed
Black people have
everything
the
within
most to
the.
lose, and black people stand to lose the most in this pandemic by far. I
No,
Like
mean,
everybody.
I think to Dr. Phoenix's point, if you look at the way Black people utilize the emergency room, it's because of the lack of proper care, right? Preventative care.
Mike, go to rural areas. A lot of rural hospitals have had to close down because white people in these rural areas use the
but
emergency rooms
but
like the
I
primary care
think the point
physicians.
of Jesus is that this conversation
That's what
specifically
ACA was all about.
yeah, but the point of this conversation is directed specifically at black.
No, I
And I,
understand.
and,
I
and I
understand,
think
but I
and I
just
think
see.
it's key that we try to keep these other elements out of it because I mean I'm in Wisconsin. I'm in the state that's 93% white. I can tell you right now, white white folks, yeah, they have all these health conditions. But again, if you look at a city like Milwaukee, black folks are black folks are like damn near 70% of the mortality here from
Yeah.
coronavirus
They
in
make
a
up
state.
5% of the population.
Yeah, in a
Well,
state that's
because we live in
93% white.
we live in urban centers. That's why we live in
No,
urban
no,
centers.
no, 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 no. To
And
add
that,
to Dr. Phoenix's point is that like if you look at the percentage of African Americans that are obese, that have heart disease, that have all these other pre-existing conditions, like the pre-existing conditions in our demographics was already higher, and once you add coronavirus into the mix, as Dr. Phoenix was saying, is like it just amplifies it. It just amplifies the problem to a larger extent.
Yeah,
And don't forget the oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
I was just saying that there's to Wesley and Dr. Phoenix's point, there's context as to why they had those sort of conditions to begin with, the pre-existing conditions to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that was what I was speaking to initially. Again, it has long been known black folks do not get the standard of care in the medical system. You don't get access to care in ways that obviously the white population does. And so all of these are factors that play into what we'll see happening now with the coronavirus in black.
And at the same time, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings in predominantly black communities are full. All right. Just tonight, when I got
Yeah.
home, I walk by a McDonald's that's not too far from me, and it's packed.
Do you live in the
So
food
you
desert?
have a lot of apathy when it comes to health.
Don't forget, don't forget McDonald's and Burger King take food stamps, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
They do.
Shit.
They do.
I did not know that.
I did not know that. Shit.
I think that's depending on the state. But I wanted to know, I mean, if you were, are you in a food desert where you saw this happening at? Or was there like a grocery store nearby?
Oh no, I'm not in the food desert. There's a grocery store right across the street from the McDonald's. Right?
Look, I'm in between Houston, San Antonio, Dallas. Look, Mexicans have just as horrible eating habits I've seen. I think there's this. We're getting to the point where it's almost like the UK in the sense that everybody's getting. It's like things are leveling out. Everybody's getting onto one socioeconomic class. Everybody's dropping down. You know.
Yeah, but there's a difference between. You see, Black people in America, the Negro class, which is what they originally were called. They're a specific class of people.
Yes.
They're disadvantaged.
And we know why.
By design. Yes. But to say that, well, you know, the Chicanos are having issues too. I don't think Chicanos are not a part of this. They're not a part of the social construct of the country. They're just not. And so whatever happens to them, I'm not saying anything should happen to them. I'm saying they're not relevant to the conversation.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, they're not relevant to the conversation because they're not a part of the social fabric of American history. It's just not, they're not there. And so,
I guess when he frames it, and you know, Dr. Phoenix and I, we talk a lot, but I guess when he frames it as if we're intentionally or Black people are intentionally doing, and I yes, they are. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you guys in front of a box of Little Caesars I just ordered. But I only ate 2 slices, so it is what it is.
I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean, we all indulge sometimes, but you know, as long as you have a balance.
It's as you know, it's you know, when you're presented with a limited number of choices, it's just, you know, what can you do?
I don't know about that, man.
Man, don't
you do better, man?
You said you live in Houston. That's the 4th largest metropolitan city in the United States. I know you have not ran out of options, man. Come on.
Well, logistically, when you think about it, I mean, for me to start with everything going on, and you know, I do, you know, I travel for work. I mean, it's I'm sitting here at a family's house, so it's I don't have access to, you know, get on the stove and start chefing it up with, you know, a bunch of pots and pans. I guess I could, but
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
It's your health at the end of the day, man.
Yeah, it is. And I'm very vigilant of that. I'm very vigilant of that.
If you're at a family's house, I don't think they'll have a problem with you cooking something on the stove. I mean,
it's not. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's a little more. I don't know. It's one. I don't like to cook. And
there it is. And there it is. It ain't got nothing to do.
I don't like to cook. Nothing else. The white man held my stove back.
Okay,
white man held my stove back.
Game changer 00100. Please help this brother, man.
I know, right? White man turned.
You can't use excuses, brother, man. After saying
look,
that,
all I'm saying, I get it. I get what you guys are saying.
Non-select. I don't know, man. I don't know.
But here's the problem. I'm not sure what Visa means that I frame it in the way that Black folks are doing this intentionally, and I would think some of the problems that Black folks face are of our own doing by far. And a good example of that, what happened last summer with Popeyes? I
think a lot of that was staged. I think that a lot of that was staged.
That Popeyes is responsible.
I think a lot of that was staged, man. I don't think.
No.
Not staged. Definitely not staged.
Nah, they're not staged. They're definitely that messed up.
No, no, and what I'm getting at is that our reaction to situations are certainly childish and at you know at best they're childish, at its worst they're absolutely inappropriate. And again, when you think about some of the things that affect us, yeah, we can say till we're blue in the face, yeah, they stick these McDonald's and these Popeyes and Burger King or whatever in our neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. That is true. But I'm also a man who grew up in the third largest city in the country. I grew up in Chicago, so I know about all these places. But I myself have not eaten at those places since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And so again, there has to be some level of culpability and some level of accountability that Black folks have to take in regards to their own health and the condition that we and the conditions that we face in terms of our health, and especially when you consider the fact that yeah, most of your hospitals in these big cities that service Black people are community hospitals. They're not designed to deal with a. These are not these are not oh my god, level ones or level two type of facilities where you have a plethora of services available. No, you generally have to travel across town to get to those kinds of facilities, because those facilities are usually associated with big academic institutions
Yep.
or big private institutions. So the most of the hospitals that service Black people, for the most part, in these cities where Black people tend to be of any significant number, are small to medium sized community based hospitals, which are primarily designed to deal one either with labor and delivery, or two, mostly primary care, maybe emergent needs, but I mean even critical care they have critical care because that will always be there. But for the most part, these hospitals are really servicing the primary care needs of people. This is why if you look at the average ED department in these small, medium-sized community hospitals where Black people are at, they're usually staffed with people who don't have emergent issues or acute issues, but really folks who just can't get, you don't have a primary care provider. You can't get seen because you've had diabetes for the last 5 to 10 years, that your number's been out of control, or you've had some reactive airway disease like asthma or something that you have, you maybe had a flare up or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
you're right. You're right. I mean, I think it's a cascade of choices that you make in
Yeah. So
life to
so
do
what I'm
this.
what I'm getting at is essentially the things that we do have control over, we do not exercise control over. And yeah, obviously, yeah. If you, I mean, it is the proverbial mouse in the mousetrap type of deal where yeah, if you put something in front of somebody and you constantly entice them with it, eventually it will give in. But
I,
you know, uh,
I mean, I think
I,
one
I,
of the big things, one
I
of the
think at
things that
some point, Black folks do have to take some real responsibility for their health and
That's
and
not
the
gonna.
one
health
of
outcomes that Black people have in this country. I mean,
That's
yes, we can talk to it blue in the face about yeah every provider, but I mean, just even me, even being on panels, man, I was on the Brother Tight City panel like a month ago. Hey, you got dudes talk. I'm on here with some old nigga talking some crazy shit, man.
Yeah.
Look,
Have a
I,
garage
I ain't
sale.
got I ain't got time for some niggas ask me some semantic ass questions about do I know how many viruses are in the world and Mother Nature talking about. Look, I ain't got time to deal with that shit, man.
Look at it.
I
Look.
man, I've cared and treated some of the sickest of the sick, man. I don't give a damn about none of that. How many viruses in the world? Only thing I care about is that, hey, look, folks who actually get the coronavirus, if you ask every one of them, they say no matter how hard they try, you just never feel like you can get enough.
Oh yeah.
And until a person has actually been in that scenario where you've actually felt like there's nothing you can do, no matter how hard you breathe, no matter how deep you try to breathe, no matter how much air we try to push into your lungs, you just cannot get enough air. Until someone actually experiences that, until you actually experience what it's like to watch people die, I ain't got Black people can't tell me shit.
Yeah. Let's go to Wacky Word. Oh, he got his hand raised.
Oh no. What I was saying is that I can't co-sign to this concept of having the so-called Black community that they're all quote unquote food deserts or a shortage of healthy options, because I've traveled to so many different cities in the country, and me live in New York City, and I've been through some of the worst neighborhoods, right? And in the worst neighborhoods, you still got a big ass supermarket.
Not true.
Inside these supermarkets, you still, there's options. There's
Not
still
true.
healthy options. So so-called black people going by this narrative about how there's such a shortage of healthy options in our communities. I don't see that. And I've been to different.
Well, I think when you don't have a vehicle, because I remember vividly living in New York, and I'd be in the Bronx or something, or I might be in Brooklyn, and I'll be late. I'll be at a friend's house, and I'll be like, man, I want to get something to eat, and I can't go to the. You can't go to the store. The store either closes at like 11 o'clock, or it's like blocks. I'm talking about in the 10 or 15 blocks away. So no, there are food deserts. There are food deserts.
Well, if you talk about New York City, there are specific stores that's open 24 hours a day.
The bodegas, that's not really the bodegas. You can't get fresh fruit.
Produce.
But
Yeah,
not even bodegas. I'm talking about this all. Listen, I'm in the Bronx like almost every single day.
Oh, I'll give you a good example.
It's like hold on. In certain parts of the Bronx, there are big old supermarkets within 4 to 5 block radiuses from each other. I never seen that. I never saw that.
So
what time is it right now? Because I guarantee you on 125th and 7th in Harlem, I remember the only thing that was there at this time of night was a Pathmark, I think over on 3rd. I don't know if they're still there. There's really nothing in that around that Adam Clayton palette. There's nothing there. There were a couple like CVS's, a Dwayne Reed, but there's nothing there. There's nowhere to get.
Most people.
The Whole Foods.
There's a finest.
There's a what?
There's a finest. I'm just saying there's a finest a grocery store over there by 126th. Finest. You guys know what finest is? Finest.
Well, I'm in New York. I know about that. I don't know about.
I never heard. They must be new because I've never heard of them.
Never heard of that.
Yeah. It's finest. It's a small little grocery store. You go
yeah. I know it is. I know what you're talking about. I remember. I know what you're talking about.
But like I said before,
I've rolled in there a couple of times myself.
But like I said before, if we're talking about. Hold on. I'm sorry, I'm not going. If we're talking about shopping at a grocery store, shopping at a supermarket. Most people don't shop at a supermarket around this time. So to give this concept, I say most people. I'm not saying all people. I say most people. So
the big one on 145th Street
give this concept that around this time you can't find healthy options. But most people don't shop around this time.
No, they're shopping in daytime.
Years ago.
Exactly.
So you don't even have any. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying they shop in the daytime. You shop on Sundays too. People, in the first of the month. So, I don't know, man. If you don't like to cook, man, you don't like to cook, man. Or you can't cook, man.
Nah, you got to put together some cooking skills, man. Men have to be able to cook. You can't, women are not cooking these days.
No, they got subscriptions. They got subscription services to healthy food, man. Subscription.
That's not even worth it.
But you gotta learn how to cook. You have to take some time to learn how to do it.
Yeah, you got Amazon Prime delivering all Whole Food stuff and Instacart and all types of, man. There's no excuse for that, man.
No, there isn't. I mean, just right now, my lifestyle is with school and work. It doesn't fit into it right now. I mean, I can. I mean, highest, I'll just eat a couple of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It's no big deal. But I think most people.
That's some succulade, man. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's succulade.
I hate to say it, but that is kind of succulade.
That's a great source of protein. What are you talking about?
No. PB&J, you could do that, but that's not a staple for you to grease on and say I'm right. Nah, that's not.
It only takes 15, 20 minutes to steam some vegetables, and it takes even less to make a little.
That's right.
Like meals.
I'm a meal prepper, man. I'm a meal prepper, man. I prep all my food for the week on Sunday, man. That's what I do. That's what I traditionally do, man. I don't, again, I get people are busy, but
Dude, we
If
don't live.
anything,
We don't live in America where people
I
sit down by 6 o'clock and
I give you
have
more of
dinner.
a
We don't
well,
do that anymore. We'll never go back
here's the
to
thing.
that.
Here's the thing. I give more of an anecdote, more of an anecdotal, example. You know, the past week or so, me and my lady, we were out and we went to like Sam's Club, then we went to like a Target and a Walmart. And I swear to God, man, you want to see the difference in priorities? Go out to like a Target or a Walmart and just go and see what black people are buying and then see what the white folks are buying. Black folks are buying all the electronics, they're buying the Xboxes, the televisions. And you know what the white folks are buying? They're buying all the outdoor stuff. They're buying up all the camping stuff, they're buying the bicycles, they're buying all the outdoor gardening stuff. Black folks buying all the tech shit.
I mean, it's not exactly safe for Black people to be outside a lot of times.
Well, is there? Here's the problem, and I get what's going on in Georgia with the brother, and I saw the video that I listened to the playback that you brothers did the other day,
Mhm.
and you know, I and while I am 100% in agreement with what the Black Brain Trust said, here's the problem: how is this any different? Even if you remove the coronavirus from the situation, how is it any different from any other time that in history that you've seen what happened to black men? I mean, it has never been safe for black people in this country, period.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. The problem has not been whether or not this country is safe for black people. The problem has been what the hell has been black people's response to it. So I guess what Negroes will go hunt squirrels, you go hunt
Mhm.
water buffalo, you'll kill some damn moccasin.
Mhm.
What the hell are you gonna do? Because the response is the problem. It's not what the problem will always exist. You're not gonna do away with racism. As long as there are white people on this damn planet, there will always be racism. Period.
Mhm.
That's what we were talking about the other day when we had that shine bone up in there talking crazy.
Dude,
I ain't gonna call a brother that. I ain't
That
gonna
was
call a brother.
crazy.
I ain't gonna call a brother that. But
That shine bone up there talking.
Oh my
That
God.
shine bone up there talking rabbit crazy. But I'm just saying that's the name of the game. You have to have a response. You have to look at what our response is going to be. We had responses back in the day, and we've kind of moved away from them. We got tired of the fight, I guess. We just forgot
Well,
about it.
you know what it is,
That it's a
Nagone?
different.
You know what it is, Nagone?
And the time hasn't changed. Things really haven't changed. Go ahead.
You know what it is, Nagone? I
Go
think
ahead,
when
brother.
you start off life, on the wrong, not well, or your formative years. So one thing I've noticed, I've really noticed is that if all of us, besides Nagone, all of us don't have. I don't think any of us have children or kids or whatever. So we can kind of maneuver through this whole situation to where I've even noticed it with myself. Like I can get up and go. I can move with the wind if I'm in a relatively good position. But I know when you got a family, when you see people that are before they can even get financially in a better position, or even if they're able to, when you have mouths to feed, that's a lot different. It's a lot different. And I think that's what you
Yeah.
see a lot of this frustration where Dr. Phoenix is talking about, because you tend to start to you can't plan long. It's harder to plan long term. You tend to start living in the now.
Well, if you have mouths to feed kids, I mean, you do have to start thinking a lot. You have to have a more of a long range plan and plan out not only for you, but you got to help plan out for the kids. You can't go hand them mouth every day.
It requires some amount of sacrifice, and sometimes you can't do that when you have kids.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a whole plan to it, because having a family and planning out, it's
exactly
so many. It's like running a business. It very much is in so many ways. Not exactly, but it's very similar to it. And, you have to think a little bit more long range and saving money and doing certain kind of things that you need to do in order to really run a family right. And it's a tough game now, and where we are right now, and the conditions that are going on right here with this COVID and all that, this is a tough one.
I think if you take all of us on this panel everybody that doesn't have kids, and we're in the same situation, same circumstances, but you now dump 3 to 4 children on us, I think we'd be talking a lot different right now.
Not necessarily. We
Yeah.
wouldn't be having conversations about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean,
Bro,
PB&Js.
dude, what I'm saying is all this, because your resources don't go as far when you have. That's all I'm saying. That's why I think a lot of what and there's no excuse because a lot of these people shouldn't have done what they've done. But I think that's where these issues come up, where you can't do a lot of these things. It becomes a lot different. Your resources are just stretched thin to where you can't. Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at the screen for Little Caesars pizza, man. 560 milligrams of sodium, man.
It's a lot of sodium.
Damn.
I don't know why I tell y'all.
Holy
I don't know why
shit.
I tell y'all these things. Everything else, y'all just take it and run with it.
Say,
It was just.
Did you order through Aldo?
it sounds like to me what you're saying is that
Stop the Phoenix, fucking asshole. Asshole.
Oh no! Oh no!
I walked over there with some Aldos on, so I got my exercise.
One slice is 560 milligrams of sodium, bro.
Yeah, that's heavy sodium, man. That's heavy in that NA, baby. That's heavy right there.
I'll drink water. I'll just drink water.
Too much sodium.
Hypernatremia ain't gonna get me.
But too much sodium affects your whatchamacallit, your testosterone, man. I don't know.
Good.
He a young cat. He'll be all right. He can eat 1 or 2 of those. He'll be all right.
1 or 2. He had a whole box, man.
No.
No.
I just told y'all I ate 2 slices. I ate 2 slices.
I'm dead.
He's taking down the whole box. Oh shit.
And you know what? I ate some pineapple chunks earlier, so that's the sodium offsets the sugar, I guess. Right?
I don't want you caring for me as a nurse, man.
or those pineapple chunks, man.
You know what's really bad is when I see people eat those. And it's crazy because when I was in high school back then, it started getting big on the market, but now it's almost a part of the diet now. Those noodle packs,
Ramen?
those are
ramen?
It's swimming. Yeah, well in Nigeria it's called Indomie, and now it's because it's imported. Yeah. And you see it everywhere, and to the point where people eat it like it's part of their culture now. And people don't know how heavy in sodium that stuff is.
You can taste the sodium in there. You can
taste.
I haven't had one of them in a long time, but you put that sprinkle, that sauce, whatever they have in there. Put the noodles up in there. That bad boy is salty as hell.
It's ironic you bring that up with the ramen packs because the other day my lady had brought it to my attention, like, the guy that started the whole business behind the ramen. I mean, dude made like $1 trillion from it.
Yeah.
Hey man, ramen's everywhere. You got
everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, it was like the crazy. I'm like,
everywhere.
I knew the dude made
you know what happened?
I didn't realize he made that much damn money.
It was out of necessity because I think after World War II, when Japan was bombed to hell, they had to figure out like a food staple, and he invented that.
Well, that's where you got Spam from.
Yeah, Spam is fucking horrible, but I mean, Spam. When I smell Spam, that bad boy almost makes me horrible. I swear to God, that shit is fucking horrible. But it was a part of Army rations as well. It was a part of Army rations.
What is Spam actually? What is Spam? What is that?
It's a mystery.
It's an email that you don't want.
It's a fucking mystery. That shit,
what is it made of?
Cryptic as hell. And it smells chemicals. Like Satan. And it smells like
like what kind of meat? What kind of meat is it?
I think it's like salami/ham, but it's like It just it just tastes like chemicals, bro.
Man,
Yeah,
that,
it's just
and
a big ass
it
salt
smells
with
like
some protein.
Beelzebub, man. You don't want. I mean, that shit smells terrible.
Yes,
I mean, lay a dead
Monsanto
body
meat.
next to that shit, you wouldn't be able to smell the difference.
You
That
know,
shit is terrible.
for
But
spam to be so
ramen,
cheap, for spam to be so cheap, I'm assuming that it's one of those leftover organs from butcher shops. That
No,
no. What? I don't know what the.
It could be.
Fuck that.
that'd be more
But they-
healthy. That'd be more
But
healthy.
they have it. I think they have it in the Caribbean. I think in Jamaica they call it bully beef. That's what it is, right?
I don't
Corned
know.
beef, bully beef.
see,
That's what it is.
My father was an army guy, so he remembers those rations, and he used to have spam up here in the house. I swear to God, I used to try to bury that shit in the backyard, man. And I used to try to hide, bury that shit. Man. I think there may be some cans still back there, over there now, the old spot. I swear to God, I'm serious. That's how bad. It's how horrible I thought it was. But this ramen shit is out here big time. This shit is more popular than Windows 7, man. I mean, seriously, you've got
He said Windows 7
all over the place.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Phoenix.
You got ramen all over the place.
No,
Go ahead,
no. What you said is hilarious because I remember when I was in the military, we used to have used to be out in the field for like a month or so, and we would get MREs and stuff. And I remember, man, they used to get like the pork. They used to have this real like pork jambalaya, everything that was pork. I used to give that shit away. All I ever ate from the MREs was just like the cookies or the cake or whatever they had. It was the only thing.
Crazy.
It tasted halfway decent, dude. The rest of that shit was
Let's go.
You gotta be starving. You gotta really be hungry to eat scrap. I mean to eat spam. Your shit's gotta be.
I'm reading the chat.
A lot of people in the projects they fry it up they fry it with like egg. I remember.
They call it scrapple. They call it scrapple.
Scrapple.
They call it scrapple. They call it scrapple.
I'm reading the chat, and Maddox12, he said that he gave spam to a dog and got bit.
Let's go to TPOT, man. My brother X.
Dog said, "Fuck you, no. What'd you do?"
Let's go to Brother X. Let's go to Brother X. He's on the panel.
What's going on,
Peace to the Black Brain Trust. What's good? Mike V, Doc Phoenix, Nagone. What's good with it, man?
What's going on, brother?
Yeah.
And
How
then
you doing, brother? I hope you're staying safe.
I'm trying, man. Luckily, I work with things and not people. So, I haven't really been affected by it that much. What I do for a living, I deal with very few people anyway. So, it ain't much change for me. Same old shit. It's good to hear y'all up here laughing, man. It's usually serious up in here, man, when I be listening. Serious shit going on up in here.
You gotta laugh so you don't cry, man, at some of these issues, man. Cats eating, 560 milligrams of pizza.
Yo, seriously though, have y'all got your stimulus checks yet?
No, I don't get one of those, man.
Hell no. I'm an LLC. I don't get jack. I don't get anything. I haven't really been affected by it though. So
I got it like 3 weeks ago.
Nah, I haven't got any stimulus check. They say if you did taxes, but I did my taxes last year, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
I only filed one.
You have to apply for it.
The state of New Jersey is gonna take mine, so I was saying, what's the point? They get mine, so whatever.
Why would they get yours?
House support?
Nah, hell no. Some BS.
You dirty for that, bro.
I shouldn't even tell y'all because it probably won't.
Don't tell us, man.
I hope it has nothing to do with all
happen with not with all the. Not with all the. No. You know what it is. You know what a lot of these states do, right? And I figured out the game. Like especially, I will never file for unemployment again because you file for that shit and you think it's all sweet, and then they come back and they say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we realize we overpaid you, so I'm gonna need that back and some." Like it's a racket. So
what? They need that back
and some. I don't.
Yeah, because like
dude, first of all, when you file for unemployment, you know the reason. I used to think that it's backlog. They're doing paperwork. No, they wait so long because they want to make you find the job. Like they're like, yeah, you've been approved, and you're gonna get this amount, and so you're like, bet. So you're just waiting, and then you're like, damn, like, oh boy, and then you do one thing where you get a W-2, and they find that shit out because finally, like by the time they give you that first check, it'll be like 6 to 8 weeks, and you got bills piling up. So the you're gonna use that money to pay back all the arrears that you're in. So I mean, this is when I used to live over there, and it's a mess. So, but I don't even fuck with that shit.
6 to 8 weeks. Wow. In New York, it's 3 weeks. No, 2 weeks.
Hell no.
You wait 2
Well,
weeks. In New York State.
Well, Jersey. This was Jersey. I filed in Jersey, and it took a while.
Well,
it took a while.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far off topic because this is about the pandemic, but
shit, it was a pandemic then. Fuck that.
Yeah. Brother X, you got anything you want to add from what you've heard?
I know where I am. Far as and I guess this is to piggyback off of what Doc Phoenix was saying. Where I'm at, it's a pretty heavy populated area where there's a lot of Black people, and I see pretty much the same shit. Folks buying TVs, PlayStations, sound systems, and white folks are buying lawn chairs, gazebos, barbecue grills, shit like that. I just bought a barbecue grill myself, as a matter of fact. So that's how I know, because I was over there with the white folks looking at barbecue grills. But yeah, I mean, white folks is buying a lot of outdoor shit. Black people are buying a lot of shit to keep them cooped up in the damn house, as if they're not cooped up in there enough. You see them buying a lot of PlayStations and TVs and shit like that, but you don't see them standing around in the book section buying books to read while they're in the house. I found that quite interesting. But as far as the sisters go here where I am, I don't know about anybody else, but the broads, I noticed mostly the Black broads aren't wearing masks. The brothers are here in the Queen City. The brothers are wearing them. The broads, not so much. Yeah, not so much, man. I mean, 1 out of 10 you'll see, with a mask on. It's mostly the brothers who rocking the mask where I am. I think the brothers are a little more concerned, obviously. I see a lot of women walking around with little kids. Kid don't have on mask. They don't have on mask. Like you go, because fast food restaurants and shit here are open. You can go in, you can go into places like the American Deli and shit like that. And the chicks working behind the counter, they're not wearing masks either. Yeah, that's what I've been noticing, far as Black folks are concerned. And we've been hit hard where we are, because I'm in Mecklenburg. It's the biggest county, it's the most populated county in this state. And we got about 2,000 and some change cases here. Now that's a small number, being that there's 1.1 million people here, like in the city, but we have more cases here than anywhere else in North Carolina. So it is a concern, or as it should be a concern, because it's spreading fast here. But I don't know. As far as I can see, I mean, I went on a mobile call the other day because I got a mobile service, and I was coming back and I saw people having a party. It was like 80 people out there, all on top of each other, Black folks. I'm like, y'all motherfuckers insane, because y'all do not know what the other 79 people out there got. And out of all those people I saw standing out there, I didn't see one damn mask. Not one.
Damn.
Not one.
Damn.
Not one.
Not one,
Not one mask.
Damn.
I almost wrecked my damn trunk looking. I was like,
This is what I'm
damn,
seeing
all
every
the
day,
Black
man.
folks over there.
It's an enforcement issue then. That's an issue of enforcement, right? Are they not
Yeah,
enforcing it over there?
they're not enforcing it like that. They're not really pushing it like that here. I mean, it's some old some voluntary shit, you know, some honor system type shit. Cause like I said, man, you go to the store, man. I mean, you see people not wearing their mask. I mean, you know, I go out every time because I got the freaking N95 Sub-Zero joint that I wear when I go out and shit. But see, I use that shit in my work anyway. So, you know, when this shit broke out, I already had a bunch of them shits on deck because I use them sometime when I do metal fabrication and sandblasting and shit like that. I use those N95s all the time. So I have them, you know, in my shop. And shit, man, a lot of people down here, they're not wearing them, man. They're not. I mean, they are absolutely not wearing masks. I mean, they think that shit's a joke. I don't know. Like I said, when I go out, I have on the Sub-Zero N95 with the 2 carbon cartridges on the side of that shit. Like whenever I jump out my truck, I jump out with that shit on my face, man. Especially if I gotta like kind of be around folks, like I go into a warehouse and pick up some parts or some shit like that. Nah, man. No.
Yeah, it clashes with a lot of the you know, the Yaki and whatnot. So it's kind of hard to make that stuff fit in. And so what I'm seeing is that people are just being defiant, just to be defiant. Black people don't really like the rules all that much, man. So anything that impedes or impacts their way of life, they just don't, they just can't, you know, comprehend it. So,
Dude, I think that's Americans in general.
This is not.
Everybody.
We can say it's America, brother, but this is not about America.
Dude,
right now. It's
in
about
Houston,
black
in Houston, a strip club opened up, and because they filed as a restaurant. Do you know, like, people rushed in and were buying? And it wasn't a black strip club; it was a white strip club. The lady in Dallas that tore up that judge's order, she was protesting. She opened up. She raised $500,000 in GoFundMe. So it's everybody that's. Look, man, I'm just look. Black people are just as much Americanized as everybody else. We might not be recognized as Americans, but our culture pretty much is the same with everybody.
But if you
Everybody
let
does
black
the same.
people tell you, well, we're special and we're somehow immune to everything else because the rest of everybody else is just not like us.
yeah, they don't got the same genes as us. True religion.
I mean, up
Hey.
here in New York, people have no choice but to wear a mask because it's so enforced. So I think
we saw what that police officer did.
Yeah, I think
we saw what that dude did.
due to the
Locked
fact
him
that a
up.
lot of establishments are enforcing people to say that, hey, listen, you can't come inside our store unless if you have a mask on. That's why a lot of so-called blacks here in New York City are wearing masks. Because before that, a lot of people wasn't wearing masks.
Yeah, but New York's a hot spot, man. You know, New York is like, you know, it's an incredible hot spot. So, you know, they're gonna push it a little harder. I know here they've actually started opening stuff up. I mean, they started reopening. Phase 1 of the reopening went down Friday evening. So more things are open here now than it was normally. I don't know if that's the best idea, you know, right now, but that's what they've done. I mean, they started opening shit up. So I'm sure we're gonna see some rise. We're gonna see some rising in cases here. And I say again, I'm glad I work with things and not people. You know, I have very little contact with people, you know, as far as my work is concerned. You know, I pick up a piece of equipment. I've been telling people just leave the paperwork on the equipment, you know, leave the invoice and I'll just grab the shit and that's it. And when I drop equipment off, it's the same thing. You know, I tape the invoice to the piece of equipment and I leave that shit. You know, I call them, yo, the equipment's in front. Better come get it. You might steal the shit. Yeah, I don't, you know, no handshaking, no, all that shit's done.
I'm
That's
surprised
done.
you don't have bulletproof glass up in the shop. You know, when the customers come, man.
See, that's the thing. When people come to my shop, I haven't enforced it. But I would say a good 90% of people who do come, they have a mask on anyway. So I don't really have to enforce it. Oh, you can't come in here unless you got on a mask. No, I haven't had to enforce it as of yet. It's only a handful of people who come in, and when they come, they don't come inside anyway. They come outside, they drop the equipment off. I fill out an invoice and they gone. So I'm not too concerned with what's going on outdoors. It's a little different when you come inside, but outdoors, outside on the property, I'm not really trying to enforce it. When you come through, that you gotta have a mask on.
You do know as they start opening things up, travel is going to start picking up. So even like airlines even though they've drastically reduced the number of flights, it's very difficult to social distance on a plane. So
Actually, you can social distance on a plane. They just don't enforce it.
Well, with the amount of fuel, what they have to pay for fuel, they're saying that what they have to pay for fuel, if they were to do that, if they were to like leave one seat is not big enough because over the years airline seats have gotten smaller and smaller. So just putting a gap of one seat between people will not be enough. You would need at least two seats.
Brother, they were flying.
I read an article.
Hold on, Matthew. Brother, they were flying in empty planes for a month.
Yes, but now,
the idea of cost of fuel, they're not worried about the cost of fuel. They ate that already. That's why they're talking about going to get a bailout, which would nationalize the airlines. That's what the biggest fear is.
They should have nationalized the damn airlines long ago.
Yeah. They should have been did that.
Wait, national. How many airlines are you going to nationalize?
All of them that need a bailout.
All of them that get bailouts.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. That's a different conversation. I think, but I do know that it's going to start. That's going to be one way of this thing spreading. Bus travel, all kinds of like when traveling, people start picking up and having to travel again. A lot of this stuff is gonna. We'll see how that goes.
But how long is that gonna be though? Like I just don't see how you can return to like some sort of like where people would just be okay with just traveling again type shit.
Yeah, people aren't just gonna get up and go. Where are they gonna go in anyways?
I mean, like the UK just already banned flights from everywhere.
Yeah, because they can't control it.
And that basically means that they're gonna have to lay off like 12,000 employees just for one company alone.
Yeah, South African airlines is going out of business.
Like I was talking to someone earlier. It's like this is like basically the 9/11 event of our day. Whereas
what it is that I think America. I'll tell you what is to me what is tantamount to. America have never fought a war on home soil, whereas in other countries they fought wars on home soil. So when war breaks out, everything stops. You don't just start going to school. You don't go to shopping. Everything just is on hold. And I think I guess America's getting somewhat of a taste. Well, the world is, but America is getting somewhat of a taste of that. Because if you talk to when I talk to my parents or older people from other they'll tell you their experience during when a civil war breaks out or when a war breaks out somewhere. Everything people don't go to school. The whole I remember that whole Nigerian civil war conflict. For 3 years, no one went to school. So then you had people that were. I mean, my dad tells stories about how he was when he turned 20, he had to go finish high school. That's crazy when you think about it. So I think this is the closest thing to it.
All right, let's go to Tafari. He got his hand raised, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, I actually wanted to address some things that X said. I thought it was a little disappointing. He pointed out that he saw Black women and children without masks, but it didn't seem like he extended a hand to find out if they had access to supplies. And I think that's kind of like a problem that we have to take more accountability as men I know you didn't create those children, but you know, they are a part of your community. And especially considering that a lot of the people who have voices that can inspire in the Black community that people listen to are the pastors in the church, which are Black men. And because there's a lack of respect for medical professionals and scientists, as well as the distrust, we have to change the narrative and actually encourage each other, you know, to actually listen to the people who actually have the resources and the knowledge to, you know, keep us safe during these times.
Well, can I address that? Being that,
Yeah, go right ahead, brother. And we'll go to Wacky World O, and then we'll close out.
well, I would love to walk around and hand out masks to all these Negroes who don't have any. But the thing is this: as long as this quote unquote pandemic has been going on, as much as we've seen on TV and media and heard about it on the radio, if your black ass ain't got a mask by now, I don't think it's beholden on me to make sure you have one. Because guess what? Everybody in my house got one. You know who else got them? My daughters, my sons, and my grandchildren. So if you're not under a flying flag to keep you protected from all threats, foreign and domestic, I feel for you, but I just can't reach you.
Holla.
Those damn mamas.
Mama.
Let's go to Wacky World O, man.
Can I just add something really quickly?
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to add something because I think I feel like all of the responsibility is always on well the black folks, well you all in these positions. No, do you know how much time I spend fighting with Negroes about shit like this? Yeah, I mean, you know some of the most disheartening shit I've had black folks say to me. You're coming to me asking for my professional medical advice, but then you're sitting here stuffing your face with Mr. Child's shrimp fried rice. Like I can't do anything to help you.
Dr. Finn, that's because you don't have you're not charismatic. You don't got the game, man. You don't got that mouthpiece.
Hey, let's go.
That's a problem.
Let's go to DE after.
Yeah.
Oh no, actually, let's go to Tafari. Yeah.
Hold on, let me speak. Hold on.
Oh,
I
go
guess
ahead, go ahead.
I guess Dr. Phoenix don't have Umar Johnson charisma, right? but
Well, I'm not tricking off on conscious strip.
but like I said before, you know, sorry to repeat myself, but I was listening to the radio this morning, and a city official in New York City stated that there will be a second round of this pandemic, as far as, you know, increasing in the fall, in September. So therefore, if the city officials say it's going to go on in New York City, of course, it's going to go on all over the country. So I'm saying this to say this: what's the point of trying to open up the economy this early when city officials are saying that there will be a second round of this pandemic?
It's a political move. That's all.
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with economics. It's a political move. Let's go to DE Rap and then we'll close out.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, brother? Shalom.
Shalom. I don't know how many of you guys fly, but if you can avoid it at any cost, try to do it.
You talking about fly?
Fly aircraft, flying. If you gotta get on an airplane,
you're sitting in the tube.
you gotta get on an airplane, go somewhere. If the aircraft,
you sitting in the tube.
Air what they call a recirculating air system on the aircraft that keeps you cool. That keeps you cool and provide you with the pressure that keeps you from falling out when you get to a certain altitude. That system, that air is filtered. They don't put very much. The air what happens is the air from the aircraft is sent through a filter. And you got a little bit of cold air that's let into the aircraft probably about every 5 cycles or so. And then you have hot air coming off the engine that keeps you cool. The cold air coming from the outside is like -50. So they dump some hot, warm air off the engine into there, filter it, and make you feel comfortable. The filters on that airplane, if they don't change them every night, it cannot hold up under the strain of this virus. It's almost like getting in if one person in that airplane, you got to fly from New York, San Francisco, one person on the airplane is sick, there's a strong possibility that everybody on that airplane is going to get sick unless you wear some kind of like what TPOT is wearing, that OSHA mask.
95 Sub-Zero.
That OSHA mask that we used to wear, my guys used to wear in the fuel tanks and when they paint an airplane. That's the best mask you can wear.
Well, I'm sure the airlines are going to change them out. That'd be irresponsible of them. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Change what out?
They would have to, he says, as if they don't change out the filters every night. I'm sure knowing that.
Bro, they're not going to change that filter. One of those filters are expensive.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you've ever seen one.
Constraints? The
filter is like about 3 feet long by about another 3 feet wide and about 6 inches to 8 inches thick.
They just won't fly the planes. That's all. That they already parked most of their planes on the ground.
Yeah, but they got airlines. I heard a guy complain the other day. He flew an airplane, a 737, from New York to San Francisco, and the aircraft was full. So they are packing it. United Airlines had like 2 flights a day or 3 flights a day going from the East Coast to the West Coast now, where they used to have like 25, 30. And they putting everybody on those 3 flights.
Yep.
And he said, he's a doctor, and he said there was 22 medical personnel that were going back from East Coast to the West Coast. So you can imagine if whatever clothes that they had on, if this virus was on their clothes, it's going to be on the seats and everywhere in that airplane. You cannot clean that airplane. So you change all the seat covers, and every time you fly the airplane, you're dealing with a hospital, really. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to fly, don't fly. Serious.
Absolutely. Thank you for everyone who came on to the panel and participated. Please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. And hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Doc in the description, the video for you to reference. Shalom, everyone.